Our incredibly handsome hero is called Chuzhan. He is a master who has been called to rescue grief-stricken people. He has earned the title of King of Solace for lonely hearts with his caring attitude toward people. In his day-to-day work, it was creating romantic dates that could give pleasure to heartbroken beauties. Sometimes he had special jobs, but even those he gladly took on. They concerned the taming of evil, stroppy, and unfit guys who were hurting their mates. The young man would probe them and put pressure on the sore spots of these scoundrels. Each such case performed successfully, making him not only a great master, but also a real fairy tale hero in the face of women. Many girls wished to get Chuzhan as a partner, but he adhered to professional principles and did not have a close relationship with his female clients. Many people considered him a master of time management who just sat on the necks of women, but no one knew the cost of it all. Chuzhan would have loved to earn so much money to live freely, enjoy life, and think about nothing. Only things were a little different. Sometimes he didn't even have enough money for food. And now there's another unexpected occurrence. Recently, an unpleasant encounter with a nasty man and his men took place. This man wanted to destroy Chuzhan in every way possible, and he did everything to do so. As a result, the young man was badly beaten, and finally they prepared a special gift. They brought in special pretenders to abuse the boy in a special way. For greater effect, the pills with a stimulating effect were forced into him, and then he was stripped naked and thrown into the hands of perverts. The situation was heated to the breaking point. A little more and the men dressed as women would have torn the young man to pieces. Suddenly the system came to the rescue. It showed a screen with a text on it that read as follows: "Attention, you'll be dead in 10 seconds. Immediately there was a countdown. At the number 6, the screen again produced a text. The text was as follows: "Attention, you will receive permission to start the system. Start the system." There were 2 options to choose from. Chuzhan could only reach the button that said yes. He had nothing left to lose. This way he decided that at least he wouldn't starve to death in the street. And what if he could escape from the bloodthirsty hands of the perverts attacking at this very moment? The system gave out a new text, notifying me that preparations for the transition had started. A rebirth has taken place. Chuzhan was in a new place. There was water all around him. A woman's voice came to his consciousness. He heard someone asking him to open his eyes. The young man did so and saw a beautiful picture. A rather spectacular and attractive woman was sitting on top of him. She was looking directly into his eyes. The young man just thought he'd gone from one problem to another. The beautiful girl was in no hurry to let the boy out of her tender captivity. She touched and stroked him affectionately, and he tried to understand what such sweet trances were happening to him. The young man immediately appreciated the woman, her form, and the grace of her movements. Everything indicated that he was somehow very lucky. It turned out that he did not have time to travel through time and immediately fell into the arms of an incredible beauty. Chuzhan even thought that she was unusually good, and her beauty was 100 times greater than the charms of earthly women. The young man decided to talk to his partner. The first thing he inquired about was where they were staying. Then he asked about her future plans for him. The girl gently, but insistently told the young man to be quiet and not to say unnecessary words, or better still, to be silent at all. Then Chuzhan prepared to simply enjoy every moment of pleasant moments spent with a beautiful stranger. Just as he closed his eyes, he found himself alone. Now he witnessed an interesting conversation. 2 women were talking. One of them was his partner, who until recently had been sitting on him. The second woman asked the beautiful woman where she had found the man. Then the somewhat familiar beauty replied that she had found him in the ravine during a search. She stressed that the man was completely naked, and on top of that poisoned. The second woman she addressed the beautiful woman respectfully, and the latter called her commander. The mysterious stranger also emphasized that the young man she found was a human soul, whose power she could take without hesitation. To this, the woman in charge responded that you can expect nothing but trouble from the male representatives. But the girl said she would handle everything this time and would not leave a witness. Chuzhan sat in the bushes and listened to the conversation. The young man heard every word clearly. He analyzed what he heard and drew new conclusions. The situation with the strangers, and their further communication with them, clearly did not promise him anything pleasant in the future. And so the young man decided to run first, and then to figure out what to do next. Only again, it was not easy. He had hardly stood up when he felt his terrible condition and utter malaise. The next step led to a fall. The system gave out a screen that said, "Announcement. Too low a level of health. Amount of health, 1/50th. Such news clearly did not bode well, and in general, my well-being confirmed the notification of the system. Besides, there was some incomprehensible diabolical game going on at the same time. Chuzhan understood that this was the price of life, into which he found himself utterly exhausted. But it turned out that even here he had to run and save his life. Only his legs did not listen to him at all. They were cotton. So the young man decided to climb on his hands. He managed to make only a few movements, as someone's women's shoes on high thin stilettos appeared before his eyes. Chuzhan looked up and saw a woman no less spectacular than the one he had met before. It was a slender, Amazon-like Bilu, who towered menacingly over the guy. The young man asked in an apologetic tone to let him pass, but his expectations were not met. The woman had other plans for him. She grabbed Chuzhan and threw him into the water. The boy was in the middle of the lake and began to swim and scramble out of the water. He barely made it to the shore when he was met by the sharp pikes of long swords staring at him. They were directed by some new female warriors. At that moment, Captain Chongjan came up and asked why the guards were not guarding the gorge as they were supposed to, but were here. Billa then said that they had discovered a spy and pointed her finger in the direction of Chuzhan. The captain stopped the women's excuses. In any case, they had violated orders, and therefore should now be punished. The woman gave them 100 lashes for disobeying and leaving the gate unattended. Billa tried to justify herself and defend herself, but Chongjan did not want to listen to her. And when she looked at the man, she called him useless and unworthy of attention. The women retreated to their seats. Then the captain decided to find out for herself who their mysterious human visitor really was. Pointing the edge of the sword to Chuzhan's throat, the woman directly asked him the question. The young man knew that his life now hung in the balance. It was undesirable to lie. Then Chuzhan blurted out that he was not of this world. And then, seeing the beautiful woman he had immediately met when he came to this place, he added that he had come for her in the first place. He pointed his finger in the direction of the incredibly beautiful stranger. The boy also said that he didn't remember how he came to this place. But Chongjan did not believe Chuzhan's words. The woman launched her sword and thrust it exactly between the boy's legs, almost touching the tender parts of his body. This did not cheer the young man up a bit. The threat was very close to being carried out. Commander Chongjan then pronounced that the man had a rare soul and advised the beauty to take him to the Temple of Vessels to be perfected. The stranger walked up to Chuzhan and gazed at him tenderly, then pronounced that if he could get out of the keeper's hall, he would see her every day. The unearthly beauty's name was Yo Zai. It had been 3 days since Chuzhan had been captured by the women. He definitely thought they were strange. But that didn't stop the young man from slowly settling into his new surroundings. Chuzhan had already made it clear that he was on the edge of the earth. This continent was a wild and desolate place. It was inhabited by humans and monsters. A smaller part of the continent was occupied by 7 human races, and the larger area is still home to powerful monsters. Only the mighty immortals were able to cope with these monsters. They, in turn, created a certain clan of Suzul. This society had its own peculiarities, with only women ruling the world. They had no limits. Everything was allowed to them. Men, on the other hand, had no rights. They could only act as servants, and sometimes they had the opportunity to help in the continuation of the lineage. It was a world taken over and built by women alone. Chuzhan did not like the situation in which he found himself. He was clearly aware that he was in a society dominated exclusively by women. It meant that he would again suffer the fate of a humiliated member of society. And in such a world there would surely be someone who would try to point out his insignificance and weakness. That was exactly what the young man did not want, especially not from women. Suddenly the system gave out another text. A new notification came in that read as follows. Detected that the hero has existed for 72 hours. Unlock the beginner's skill. There were 2 options to choose from. Chuzhan rejoiced, for now he could have the opportunity to get the golden finger of cultivation. The system also showed additional text where it notified that scientific cultivation is infinite mana. Of course, the young man agreed to the gift. Then the system demonstrated different kinds of guns and added the following text. Chick, you're so cute. Basic abilities are level 1. Unlock one-handed weapons in the chicken-eating game. Exhaustible resources must be bought wisely. Chuzhan tried to take one of the pistols. To his surprise, they turned out to be no illusion. He spent 5 points and bought himself 10 rounds of ammunition. Just as he began to figure out how to reload his new acquisition, someone knocked on the door and called him out. But now the young man understood that he had a system, and it would help him travel in this strange female world. On his way out, Chuzan saw some female warriors approach and gather at the entrance, but he was already being led in the direction of the residential area of the parties. As they walked, the women paid attention to the new young man. They definitely thought the newcomer was handsome and looked at him with interest. The fact that he had a short haircut made them think he might be a Buddhist cultivator, which meant that he might have 6 roots of tranquility. Chuzan continued to walk forward. Suddenly a small procession blocked the road. A group of slaves carried a stall on their shoulders, where a certain elder was sitting with unusual beauty and grandeur. Beside her sat a huge demonic beast. It was clearly a member of the big cat family. The woman stroked the white tiger affectionately. Farther away, Chuzan saw another group of slaves. They were walking tied up and beaten. Some of them tried to resist. Then the women who accompanied them began to whip the men with their long whips. They brutally beat the prisoners of war to within an inch of their lives. At that moment, the elder stopped her procession. Her beast immediately jumped out of the booth and headed toward the slaves. The demon cat pounced on the bound man, who was trying to resist the blow, and began to torment him. As a result, the tiger killed him. All of this was happening in front of Chuzan's eyes. Then the elder waffled on, saying that the men were slaves with no rights whatsoever, and she made it clear that they were not allowed to touch women, and this one allowed the attendant to be touched. Now she decided to teach the slaves a clear lesson, and everyone saw that such a thing would not happen again, on the part of the guilty one for sure. Chuzan looked at this female world overflowing with discrimination, and in that moment decided definitively that he would not just leave it at that. It was time for Chuzan to enter the Temple of Vessels. The young man was a little puzzled by the name itself. It could mean completely different things, and his imagination was triggered by various pictures of an intimate nature. He decided not to be lingering and asked his attendant directly what this Temple of Vessels was for. The girl replied that it was the only place where men could perfect themselves. She added that if he was lucky, he would melt his tkana and achieve longevity. She also remarked that if the young man gave up the idea of becoming a Buddha, he would be able to reach the main aisle and obtain the golden elixir of immortality. But she explained that this, too, had a price. The girl said that in that case, he would no longer be considered a man. Then Chuzan inquired about the female warriors who had recently come to the entrance of the temple. The attendant explained that they, like many others, come to the temple to be tested and become selected fighters. The girl said that many drop out during the trial and do not make it to the end. Chuzan did not understand this whole order, and he was even more confused as to whether the process of cultivation was worth his own ossification. This question held his attention for a while. At that moment, the bound prisoners of war were brought into the courtyard. It was a strange moment for the young man, too. He thought there were only magical creatures outside of these lands. It begged the question of why the prisoners turned out to be ordinary people. But no one was in a hurry to temper his curiosity. The chief of the female attendants, who was called Hong Lu, walked and was proud of her catch. This time, she said, she had caught 8 high-class male slaves who could replace several hundred valuables in the temple. Then one of the girls serving her remarked that this was all well and good, only that no one could replace the loss of the ritual utensils. At this point, the company of women approached Chuzan. Hong Lu remarked on his cuteness, called him a chick, and proceeded to examine him. And then she suggested that he not have to go through the very scary ordeal at the Vessel Temple and follow the woman. Chuzan thought to himself that the chick had grown up. He decided to put the female warrior in her place and said in a voice that he was not interested in ugly women. Then he suggested they go their separate ways. The women were a little upset by such a statement. To be more exact, what the young man said made them furious. But at that moment, one of the prisoners of war began to feel sick and fell down. His tribesmen knelt beside him and began to slow his comrade down. Hong Lu walked over to the crouching man and angrily struck him with the whip. In doing so, she angrily threw that he was preventing her from speaking. The woman also added that if he continued to make noise, she would simply kill him. After these words, the woman beat her captive very badly. Then she turned around and walked over to Chuzan, who was watching the whole thing. Looking at him, the woman slyly wondered how he would coexist with these savages in the same temple. Hong Lu touched the young man's face and noted that his skin was incredibly smooth and offered him a close relationship. She emphasized that it was a chance for him to be rid of future misery. But the young man stated that he would rather die on the ordeal than be in a relationship with someone like her. Then he tried to jab the woman even more. The guy said that even without knowing her, he drew conclusions about her, and stressed that the expression on her face made him uncomfortable. Naturally, it worked. Hong Lu became angry and threatened. She warned Chuzhan not to let her see him again. But first, the woman planned to have fun with him and then sell him to a brothel. The young man did not hesitate long and swung and slapped her in the face. This move caused great bewilderment, even about the male prisoners of war. But Chuzhan was no longer afraid of anything. He was tired of everyone trying to humiliate him and consider him a weakling. He voiced his thoughts. All the words had already been spoken. All that remained was to wait for the woman's reaction. The woman's reaction was immediate. The woman drew her sword, which was hanging behind her back, and swung it twice. Fire waves of magical attack dispersed. At that moment, the system came to the aid of the young man and gave the following message. Attack detected. System replenishes energy. 0.01 points gained. Chuzhan looked around. There was no trace of magic on him. It appeared that from the very beginning, the system absorbed all the energy that emanated from magic. This ability gave the young man unimaginable strength. From these minutes on, any attack was absorbed by the system. In this regard, Chuzhan did not receive any damage. At that moment, from behind, a fiery demonic creature approached the young man. The monster was heading for the guy with its beak wide open. Chuzhan only had time to turn around before the fire phoenix attacked him. There was a discrepancy, or a miscalculation. Anyway, it was hot. The moment of surprise from the flying bird had worked. The strength that he had regained over the past few days was not enough for the young man to withstand the power of the phoenix. And the system at this point was only able to absorb a small portion of the magical attack. A large batch of magic came to hit Chuzhan. The system responded, of course, only it did not report anything new. It only confirmed that the guy's level of life is low and is only 5/50ths. Hong Lu watched Chuzhan's reaction. She noticed that he had certain abilities. It was not easy to resist the power of the fire phoenix, much less avoid the fatal fate of his attack. While the woman was looking at the guy, he kept his eyes on her too. This made Hong Lu angry. She was convinced that a slave had no right to look at her whenever he wanted to, even if he had a pleasant appearance. The woman decided to teach the young man a lesson and punish him, or better yet, take his head off him altogether. Grabbing him by the hair with one hand, she reached for her sword with the other. It seemed that Chuzhan's fate was sealed, but something happened that no one expected. The young man drew his gun and pointed it at the woman's face. He looked into her eyes and then said that time had changed. Turning to Hong Lu, he added that he had come for immortality and had no intention of becoming someone else's slave. All the more so, Chuzhan decided that he would definitely change this world, and with each time he became more and more convinced of his decision. Night fell. Within the walls of the temple, two women were talking. The female warrior commander addressed the main one and said that when she left, the Council of Elders was arbitrarily encroaching on the territory of the demonic clans and suffering great losses because of it. In the commander's opinion, this was ill-conceived and ended up casting doubt on the influence of the temple mistress herself. The woman also did not like the new slave, which she reported directly. She feared that the young man would blab to the members of the Council of Elders about the wound on the main one's body. To this, the temple mistress showed her interlocutor a warning sign that meant, "Keep your mouth shut." At that moment, there was a tremendous roar of thunder over the temple, which was of a magical nature. The people outside noticed what was happening. Among the witnesses was Elder Hong, whose stall was moving in a familiar procession. The woman sat next to her demonic beast and watched the violent peals of thunder as well. She was unhappy that the mistress of the temple, Yoji, had again, to her surprise, handled the problem prepared for her. Suddenly, the magical artifact that hung on Elder Hong's belt lit up and then crumbled in her hands. This could only mean that her daughter, who was the owner of that medallion, was dead at that moment. The guardian of the temple had indeed mastered the problem, and now the boundaries of immortality and the sky were broken. She was helped in this by the power she sucked out of Chuzhan with special techniques. She shared this secret with the female warrior commander. At this point, the round table caught the attention of the women. It announced that a top student had been murdered within their territory. The temple mistress inquired exactly where it had happened. The answer was that it was directly in the Temple of the Vessels. It's just that different things were happening there in a hurry. Chuzhan did use his weapon and fatally shot the woman in front of her assistant and the prisoners of war. It was the young man's first time killing. He noticed that in doing so, he felt nothing inside. He was filled with absolute calm. He even thought it was some assistance or side effect of the system. Basically, it reacted immediately and produced a new screen with the following text. Mission accomplished. Biological material available for research has been collected. Current sample contribution, 100. The system scanned the dead body and collected information on humanoid species. When the process was completed, the system alerted the young man that the new biological research had contributed and earned him a reward of 1 additional %. A reward notice also popped up on the screen. It read, Restorative ability. Chick, you're too pretty. LV +1, energy points +100. Chuzan thought sarcastically to himself that even the system had fallen in love with him. The guy also noticed that his life energy had been restored and began to reflect. It turned out that the system collects information about the immortals of this world and most likely wants to deprive them of their abilities. Before he had time to think about it, he received a new message from the system. It said the following. Chick, you are too beautiful LV2. Healing and defense are unlocked. Also, to use the accessories, you need to spend points on purchases. The system brought up 3 suggestion boxes and again asked me to choose between 2 options. At that moment, several other women arrived at the Temple of Vessels. One of them, Chuzan immediately recognized. It was a vicious stranger from the forest who thought he was a spy and was going to kill him on the spot the first time they met. The girls who witnessed the murder of their mentor immediately rushed to her for help when they saw Bila enter. They asked to capture Chuzan because he had just killed their mentor. The woman became angry and took turns hitting the girls. She informed them that she conducted the business of the Vessel Temple, but was not called upon to carry out the servant girl's instructions. She also angrily remarked that she was not going to stoop to the level of submission, much less in front of them. The girls began to resist and make excuses. They reminded Bill that their mentor was the daughter of Elder Hong herself. But to the woman, this argument was not a valid one. In her eyes, someone who was half a step away from immortality and was considered an outstanding student but could not handle a man was not worthy of attention. The woman was only indignant that Chuzan had no time to enter the temple and immediately began to smash the ritual vessels. She considered this to be a rehash of the established order. On the other hand, there were no such regulations that forbade responding with blow for blow. The young man said he only wanted to teach her a lesson. He himself did not understand why she could not take a punch. The woman listened to the young man and appreciated his words. Then she added that if he could survive Elder Hong's persecution, she would no doubt allow him to be tested at the Vessel Temple. At that moment, the doors flew open with a crash. Elder Hong's demonic white tiger burst into the room. He was clearly in an unfriendly mood. The elder herself followed. She came down and stood beside the corpse of her daughter. The woman was furious. She shouted, appealing to the murderer to come out to her, and she herself began to prepare her power for revenge. In the meantime, the system gave Chuzan a new notification. The message was as follows. Genuine life force attack detected, filling the system's ability. You receive 0.01 points. This message was not at all clear to the young man. The slain woman's servants at that moment informed the elder of the situation and pointed out who had killed her daughter. In justification, Chuzan said that she was going to kill him first, and everything that happened was just self-defense. But Elder Hong did not accept such excuses, or any excuses at all. In the woman's eyes, he was her daughter's slave killer. She struck a magical blow. The last one hit the guy's chest. Chuzan fell down. The flaming sword almost pierced his shoulder. He was saved by the armor he wore after the 3rd level. The system showed that after the magic strike, the guy's health was 20/50ths and defense was 35/100ths. Elder Hong decided to finish Chuzan off and swung her flaming sword again. At that moment, one of the serving girls ran up and told her to be careful as the young man had a kind of magical artifact. This did not stop the woman. She summoned a fire phoenix, gathered all her strength and directed it at Chuzan. The young man took advantage of his abilities. He took the earlier analgesic offered by the system and got a plus 50% increase in speed, as well as plus 50% in stamina. The pills increased his physical recovery rate by 20% and added 20% more accuracy to his shot. Chuzan shot back. To everyone's surprise, Elder Hong was able to deflect all the bullets. The woman was not at all surprised by such a performance with a gun. She was ready to fight on. Then Chuzan took out a stun grenade, pulled out the pin, and threw it in the woman's direction. It gave out its effect. The elder got into a defensive posture. At that moment, the young man approached the woman and pointed the muzzle of his gun at point-blank range and fired. The bullet should have pierced her skull, but it did not. Then Elder Hong declared that her body was made of the purest gold, and even the strongest magical artifacts are not always able to penetrate it. After these words, she angrily shouted that it would not work. Her rage increased and was demonstrated by a magical stream of fire that gathered into a single clump that attacked Chuzhan. The blow was of great force. It caused the guy to flip backwards several times, and he was injured a lot in the process. He was even bleeding. Elder Hong continued to gather magical powers and prepare for the final blow. She shouted out to the guy to stop his game and get up for battle. The woman's accumulated power represented a ball of fire growing by the minute, which heralded a clear and inevitable end. At that moment, an opposing magic appeared and stopped the impending firestorm. At the head of the force was Chong Jan, the same girl who commanded the female warriors. Elder Hong angrily exclaimed how a woman dared to cross her path. This question also interested Chu Zhang. Then the young woman said the following, that the head of the temple had issued an order that forbade Elder Hong to kill the man. The woman did not believe it. She thought it was just a pretext to prevent her from carrying out what she intended. But Chong Jan was determined and again boldly declared that it was the order of the chief. And if there was any doubt on Elder Hong's part, she was welcome to go to the meeting hall and check with the head personally to see if her words were true. And then the young woman added that while she was here, no one would lay a finger on the man. This statement by Chong Jan infuriated Elder Hong even more. She angrily shouted that the man was just hiding behind the warrior's back. At this moment, the two opposing magical streams collided again. The unbelievable battle of the Sky Woman could be seen by everyone around them. The confrontation of fire and water took place in the air and was accompanied by strong flashes. Elder Hong, nevertheless, did not forget her opponent even in her moments of fighting with Chong Jan. She whistled and called out to her demonic white tiger. The wildcat knew what she had to do. The tiger ran toward Chu Zhang and prepared to attack. The woman gave an approving sign to the beast and it pounced on the guy. Chong Jan saw what was happening and immediately rushed to the man's aid. But Elder Hong beat her to it and stood in the way of the young woman. She pronounced to her angrily that no one would save the man today. It seemed that the end was in sight. Suddenly the white tiger received a small gift from the man in the form of an activated fragmentation grenade. The beast did not even have time to grab the toy before it exploded with tremendous force in front of his face. Now the monster was wounded but not killed. Chu Zhan made one more attempt. He had one last grenade left. Suddenly the system displayed a message that the man did not have enough points to purchase the next explosive toy. But the guy did not want to give up and decided to send the demon cat to the other world by any means. And he had no other options. The tiger, though wounded, did not lose his rage. He lunged at the boy and grabbed Xu Zhang by the shoulder with his fangs. Now the young man was badly wounded. Blood was already beginning to ooze from his wound. But the boy didn't let up, and at that very moment of the tiger's attack, he threw a last fragmentation grenade into the demonic cat's mouth with his other hand. It exploded inside the creature, and now it killed the monster. It happened in front of Elder Hong. The system showed the screen and gave new notifications. They read, Subject: Biological material collected and available for study. Contribution: 2 100ths. Now the scanning of the beast was taking place. The collection of information about the animal's biological data was complete. The new guy ownergy brought the man a reward of 1% for his research contribution. At this point, Chu Zan's condition stabilized. All of the damaged areas on his body recovered and healed. Then the system added another message regarding the reward. It said, Ability: Chick, you're so handsome LV +1. Unlocked ability: The power of the tiger uncle LV1. Points: +100. Elder Hong could not believe her new loss. Her rage now knew no bounds. The woman threw her flaming sword from heaven at the man. Suddenly the protection of the golden bell, which protected Chu Zhan, went off. Only the head of the temple possessed such a technique. And what just happened only spoke of one thing, that she insisted on her decision and forbade to harm this man. While Chu Zhan was recovering, Elder Hong swiftly disappeared. Then Chong Jan ordered the two warriors to take the young man to the meeting hall, where the head was waiting for him. Chu Zhang definitely liked the order and would have carried it out immediately, but he suddenly remembered that there were some beaten and wounded prisoners of war left here. The young man pulled out the healing bandages and decided to help the strangers without giving away that he was taking things from his unusual and secret system. He went to the wounded prisoner himself and bandaged all his wounds. As a result of the bandaging, the man appeared to be a little too bandaged, but the bandage from the mysterious system worked quickly and restored the man. He even managed to get up immediately. Chuzan, meanwhile, was already on his way to a meeting in the meeting hall, where a beautiful woman was waiting for him. It was evening in the city. The sun was setting. Chuzan was blissfully at the local baths. He remembered the sad days that had passed. Now it seemed that everything had settled down. He could relax and even noticed that a double recovery had taken place. The young man looked at his muscles, and it seemed to him that even they were teeny and strong. As he was examining himself naked, two of the assistants came in. They brought clothes for the young man. Chuzan saw the young female guests in the bathing room and immediately rushed into the water. The thought crossed his mind that women in this world were just as dissolute as men. But the girls had already done their job. They took the boy out of the water, began to wipe him and dress him. The young man stood looking at the seductive forms of the girls. He even thought that the beautiful guests were deliberately using their charms against him. When it came to putting on underwear, Chuzan reacted quickly and resolutely insisted on putting on his own undergarments on his body. The girls grinned and asked not to be embarrassed. When all the procedures were over, the young man appeared in all his glory. He looked stunning. His assistants could not take their eyes off him, and the young man himself liked his appearance. Then Chuzan decided to bring the dreamers down to earth and asked if they were finally going to take him to an audience with their mentor. Then one of the girls said that he would see the beautiful mistress very soon and emphasized his good fortune in many matters. She also added that no man had ever had a bath in this divine bath before. The second girl admonished the speaker for her chattering and threatened to be punished for such verbosity. The young man listened to the girls and could not take his eyes off their attractive forms. Then he decided to distract himself and look at his own characteristics of powers and abilities at the moment. The system gave the following status of the character. Name, Chuzan. Level, LV0. Title, Absent. Health 50 to 50/50. Magic power, 0 to 0/0. Energy 10. Physical strength 10. Promptness 8. Intelligence 10. Sensitivity 5. Charm 100. Remainder 107.02 points. One thing that pleased Chuzan from his characterization was that at least his appearance had not deteriorated. This clearly added to his self-confidence and lifted his spirits. Meanwhile, the system gave out another notification with a bar of real skills. It said, Passive skill, Natural Born Seducer LV5. Acquired skills, check, You are such a handsome LV3. Invocation, The Power of the Tiger Lord LV1. Then the system added another window with information. There was an introduction to abilities. Check, You are such a handsome LV3. Unlock this single-shot machine. As for consumable items, you must pay for the purchase of consumable items with points. It is enough to summon the young ghost tiger once. There is an invisibility ability. It has no attack power. During the action it spends 1 point per minute. Chuzan was particularly interested in the system's suggestion regarding the ghost tiger. He immediately called out to him. Suddenly, a small ghostly animal sank into the young man's palm and mewed softly. The boy wondered what such a mysterious kitten could do. As it turned out, the ghost tiger cub is like a drone that can share any information with humans. Chuzan decided to name his new friend El Wumio on the occasion that he liked to make some purring sounds all the time. At that moment, the new companions smelled an incredibly delicious aroma coming from the next room. Chuzan and his new ghostly friend went to the smell, and then he saw the very same beautiful woman, who was the head of the temple, come out of her bathing room. The beautiful woman was wearing only a light transparent cloak, very thin and very transparent. The woman immediately noticed the young man's appreciation of her body. The beautiful woman did not hide herself. On the contrary, she approached the man and slipped her hand under his clothes. The woman fumbled for her gun and pulled it out, muttering that she was going to soothe this treasure. The woman was so attractive and enchanting that even the ghostly tiger could not resist her beauty. He was no longer in control of himself and rushed towards the woman with jet speed. The kitten ran up to her and nestled into the lush breasts of the beauty, purring softly. The woman, without thinking twice, took the animal by the withers, tore it off and tossed it. The ghost tiger cub immediately disappeared. Chuzan decided that it was dead. There was no time to reason, nor was there any desire to. But the system gave out a message with the following information. The tiger's spirit is used up. It takes 1 hour to regenerate the power of the tiger uncle. Then it can be summoned again. 0:59:56 left. Now one situation was at least definitely clear to Chuzhang. He approached the woman and decided to talk. The young man awkwardly asked his mentor what she was doing. Then the beautiful woman, not taking a break from her practice, said that she had heard about the murder of Elder Hong's daughter, and pointed out that it was all the work of a man who had only appeared to them. Now she waited for an excuse. Chuzhan decided to speak and said that everything she said was true. But then he added that that woman wanted to kill him first, so he had no other option. The woman changed poses and continued to exercise. As she listened to the young man, she asked him to give her reasons for keeping him alive. She also warned that they must be weighty. Otherwise, she would have to cut off his head and send it to the elder as a gift as an apology, and to resolve the conflict situation. Besides, this alone could temper the anger of a mother suffering for her dead daughter. Listening to the beauty, Chuzhan doubted the correctness of his previous actions, and then he decided to pleasantly surprise his mentor and show the weapon, stressing that it was the only reason he had survived. The tool interested the woman. She took it in her hands and examined it. The woman felt no magical aura. It was a simple piece of iron in front of her, and yet it looked like a true work of craftsmanship. She had never seen anything like it before, much less held it in her hands. Such a weapon proved only one thing, that the young man had come from another world. The woman spoke her reasoning out loud. Then Chuzhan intervened and said that even though it was a simple piece of iron, it had a special ability. It shot special arrows. Elder Hong's daughter was convinced of this herself. The instructress replied that they were not familiar with such weapons. At the same time, she noted that if students of her temple possessed such items, their strength would increase significantly. Then the woman asked if Chuzhan could make such a weapon. The young man strongly exclaimed in the affirmative and emphasized that where he came from, even children could do it. He added that all it takes is time. But mentally he had already stopped his haste, only it was too late. The words were already out of his mouth. Suddenly the mentor pointed the muzzle of the gun right in his face. The young man was frightened and tried to calm the woman down, urging her to remove the gun from her sight. But the woman pursued her own goals and did not give up the idea of finding out all possible details. She lowered the gun and stuck its muzzle into a place below the young man's waist. Chuzhan broke into a sweat, but did not move. The mentor then kindly inquired where he had gotten the fighting tool and emphasized that he definitely didn't have it on him when we first met. Chuzhan tried to guffaw and finally suggested that the woman simply hadn't noticed him when she first met him. The mentor pulled down his belt and asked what other treasures he was hiding under his outer clothing. The young man stood still and did not move. Sweat only dripped from him. The mentor took the gun away and slowly walked around the young man. She stood behind him and pressed her body tightly against the boy. Then she put her arm around his shoulders, put her arms out, took aim and fired. And then she whispered in Chuzhang's ear that he had no aura, no charm, and that if he was spying, he was very mediocre at it, not even at all, to be exact. And then she added that he also had many secrets that she didn't even know about. And they aroused her curiosity. At this, the mentor turned the muzzle of her gun in Chuzhang's face and questioned whether she could trust him. The mentor, without taking the muzzle of the gun away from the young man's face, pulled the trigger. The bullet flew out. Chuzhan himself could not believe how it happened, but the woman somehow inexplicably managed to catch the bullet with her 2 fingers before it should have pierced the boy's face. Chuzhan's reaction was the most unpredictable. He wondered through a shout if she was the devil woman. The woman continued to admire the weapon and drew her own conclusions. In her opinion, the boy had enough strength. But the mentor felt that he was still a long way from the monks of the upper frontier, and based on his reaction to what had just happened, he wasn't prepared at all. The woman could see the young man's facial changes and reactions to everything. Then the mentor put her hand on Chuzhang's shoulder and spoke softly, telling him not to be so tactless toward his enemies in the future. And she explained that Elder Hong is half a step away from immortality, so it is not difficult for her to kill a man. She also added that Chuzhan is her first vessel, and as the temple keeper, she prefers to protect her reputation. She added that this means that her people are not allowed to let themselves be killed. The young man replied that in this case they might run into him again, as he always responds to his abusers. This is due to the fact that the day before he read 1,000+ web articles suggested by experienced strategists, and with the help of this information, he came to the principle that if you always give in, it will only lead to containment of the personal inner demon. So sometimes it is worth to show persistence and to fight back the enemy. That was what he was going to do in the future, and he told his companion about it. His words pleased the mentor very much. She smiled and said he sounded not like a man at all, but like a woman. She also called him a braggart. Chuzhan was incredibly pleased to hear such things from such an extraordinary woman. The mentor added that he was, among other things, terribly arrogant. She decided, therefore, to give him the teachings of the temple if he wished to learn. The doctrine itself was called Summit After Summit. Its meaning was to reach new peaks. By reaching each one of them, a person became one level higher. Everything began with a simple practice, and then it was possible to talk about an impenetrable golden body, about strength, about the dexterity of a tiger and the ferocity of a dragon. The man moved step by step toward perfection, achieving the unprecedented. The body was becoming like a diamond. Then the woman added that after that, the man could shake the sky and shake the earth. Chuzhan especially liked the idea of having a body like a diamond. He suggested that it might raise his blood pressure, but that didn't stop him in the end, and he was ready to begin his studies immediately. The tutor liked the young man's enthusiasm and decided to begin training immediately. The woman used magic. Chuzhan immediately plunged into some kind of energy ball. At that moment, the mentor used the Thunderheart technique. This skill was used to defeat the enemy's mind. At the moment of the mentor's direct influence, Chuzhan received a message from the system. It said, "You get a new skill. Vertex by Vertex LV1. When used, you can activate the golden body. Spends 1 point of magic power per second." The young man wondered if the system could take away other people's abilities. He thought that would be great, since the technique used by his mentor was very cool. He saw that because of the enormous magical power, his power and energy doubled. The system confirmed the readings. The mentor was watching the man. She could see that he was in trouble, but the woman wanted to wait for his real self to consider it. She even wondered if the young man finally wanted to pour out his soul to her. Without waiting for an answer, she applied the soul discovery technique. It was the ultimate way to plunge into the sea of knowledge and invade the enemy's memory. At this point, the system malfunctioned. Several screens popped up at once, glowing red and giving out a single text. The message was as follows: "Powerful attack detected, system is booting." Then the system showed a screen of the usual blue color and gave the following message: "The system connected to the sea of knowledge. Data loading from memory has started. 23% complete." Chuzhan saw the loading continue. They were both confused and both didn't understand what was going on. The mentor looked at the situation and wondered how he, who had not reached perfection, could reflect the soul detection technique. At the same time, she felt someone else absorbing her powers. The process was uninterrupted. Meanwhile, Chuzhan received a new message. It said that the download was complete. It also said that he received only 1.7 gigabytes of memory, which had already been reformatted into an AVI extension. All the young man thought was that the size and shape of the woman was not right. Filled with her energy, the boy wondered if the technique could be further improved. The mentor became angry and decided to take drastic action. She struck a blow and knocked the young man to the ground. Now the woman continued to beat Chuzhan. As she did so, she questioned what he had done to her and her strength. The woman struck blow after blow. She could not stop. At one point, enraged, the woman picked up Chuzhan and threw him against the wall like a vase. The head was severely exhausted in doing so. Blood gushed from her mouth. It was a bad sign. The battered Chuzhan tried to figure out why the beating was so sudden and severe. He even thought that the mentor had begun to learn and practice the top-by-top technique on him. Chuzhan was well aware that it takes a lot of strength to tear a person apart at once. While he was coming to his senses, the woman left. The young man stood up, looked around, and called out to his mentor. Not getting an answer, he walked over and took his belt, put it on, and decided to go. Suddenly the woman returned. This time she was already dressed as a warrior. The teacher was glowing with rage. She grabbed Chuzhan and dragged him in an unknown direction. The young man was bound by his leg with a special magical band and simply dragged along behind his mistress. The woman didn't say a word. Through the magical powers of his mentor, they were traveling in some hitherto unknown direction. They were already outside the city when the young man noticed that mentor was not feeling well and that she was bleeding. He asked what was wrong, but did not get an answer. At that moment, a small accident occurred. It was a deep night. The bright moon, which was just at its full moon, was shining. It illuminated the whole neighborhood as best it could. It was also aided by the few fireflies that dwelt in the greenery of the forest. It was now that the travelers, moving over the forest, made an emergency landing. The young man landed uncomfortably next to a huge tree unknown to him. There was no mentor nearby. Chuzhan stood up and saw a message from the system. It reported that his life level had dropped by 51/100ths, and that his magical powers had completely run out. The guy grudgingly thanked the top-by-top technique and began to look around at the terrain. He wondered where he was going. He got up and started walking. The boy walked up to some stone object that looked like someone's huge head and thought it was an incomprehensible simple monument. The young man even tapped on the stone. Then he turned around to walk in another direction. Only Chuzhan didn't notice one thing, and the stone slowly, almost imperceptibly, reacted in a peculiar way to his tapping. Besides, he was already distracted by another sound. The young man heard his mentor coming toward him. It turned out that the woman had also fallen and had been seriously bruised in the fall. Chuzhan saw that she was not feeling well. He noticed that the woman was getting worse by the second. The young man rushed to help the woman. At the same time, she took a step towards the young man and stumbled on the root of a tree and fell down. Chuzhan managed to catch the mentor before she hit the ground. The woman disgruntledly shoved the young man away and did not accept his help. The guardian told the young man that he, seeing her weakness, had taken advantage of the moment and attacked her. The guardian rebuked the young man for faking it. Chuzhan did not accept the accusation. But the keeper felt and understood one thing, that all of her strength was taken away, her achievements were lost, and old wounds were exposed. She blamed everything that had happened solely on the man. She believed that he had deflected the soul detection technique and in some unpredictable way attacked and robbed her, causing nothing but trouble. Now, even the slightest mastery of the summit-by-summit technique did not help. The woman clearly understood that she was bound hand and foot. Chuzhan did not stop justifying himself. The young man stated that he was one who was comprehending the high morals of a warrior. And then he asked how in doing so he could treacherously attack his mentor and waited for an answer. While they were figuring things out, they heard what sounded like the ground moving. The woman shouted to Chuzhan not to move. At that moment, a huge monster snake, sticking out its bifurcated tongue, swiftly approached the forest guests. The young man began to shout how a snake could be so huge, but the mentor was interested in another question. How could this ancient giant python be so close to the temple gate? The serpent surrounded the man and the woman. Chuzhan covered her body with his mentor and waited for the attack. Then the guardian looked up and saw in the light of the moon, standing on the head of a python, a certain woman. Elder Yin Hongni appeared before the guardian and Chuzhan. Yawning, she asked the couple what kind of noise they had made in the middle of the night. She lamented that their behavior not only woke her up, but made her run 1,000 miles. The man turned on his charm and started apologizing. Chuzhan respectfully informed them that they were lost and were on their way out. But Yin Hongyi angrily stopped their intentions to retreat, after which she slowly descended to the ground and waltzed over to her encounters. First, she approached the young man and began to sniff him out. After breathing in his scent a few times, she held out her tongue and ran it over the boy's face. Chuzhan did not expect such behavior from the woman and nervously exclaimed that he was not an ice cream to just come up to him and lick him like that. Getting into a defensive posture, he just as angrily asked what the woman allowed herself and stepped back as far as possible. But Yin Hongyi was not the least bit embarrassed by the guy's reaction. She said, licking her lips, that small and beautiful men are very sweet to taste. And after thinking for a while, she told Chuzhan of her personal decision. The woman said that for the next 3 months, the young man would be her man. Then the mentor spoke. She said that Yin Hongwu was late. The woman added that this particular young man belonged to her. Then Yin Hongwu grinned questioningly. She rebuked the stranger for being barely able to stand on her feet, even though she was a representative of the immortals. The woman hinted that not only would the keeper not be able to approach, much less have the strength to take away her prey. The guardian approached the demoness and spoke the following words. She said that this is human land and she, as a representative of the demonic clan, has no right to come to this territory and rampage here. Yin Hongwu fearlessly responded, calling the woman a lowly immortal who dared to make a challenge to her. The demoness said that she had come to this territory of her own free will. She also explained that she does and will do whatever she wants. The guardian began to confront such statements by a woman from a hostile clan. She stressed that here is the border of the golden immortals, and no one from the demonic community dares to violate the rules of these lands. Yin Hongwu didn't give up either. She raised her voice and insisted. There was a verbal altercation between the women. As a result, Xu Zhan decided to intervene in their vivid dialogue. He took out his rifle, pointed its muzzle at the mysterious stranger from the enemy clan, and addressed her politely. The young man asked nicely not to disturb his mentor and go about his business, otherwise he would have no choice but to stand up for his companion and protect her. He also added that it would be a good idea for everyone to get on with their lives. Yin Hongwu clapped her hands together and exclaimed that such a young man, who had just begun to perfect his kai, was already showing great zeal. She thought this was commendable and added with a chuckle that she was almost afraid. After this action, Yin Hongwu was even more attracted to the young man. She decided that 3 months in his company would not be enough for her and offered to spend at least half a year together. These words infuriated the mentor. The woman immediately activated her magic and struck her opponent. Yin Hongwu flew away and fell down. As she did so, the demoness said that people have always been and still are mean, explaining that they were only looking for a moment to stab someone in the back. Yin Hongwu landed on her feet. The woman stood up, took out her mouthpiece, and smoked to calm herself down. Then she endured a few more minutes and turned her magic. The attack was overkill and overpowering. Mentor at this point repelled the blow with a special technique. This technique was also a kind of signal for people, which foreshadowed the impending trouble. When Yin Hongwu saw what was happening, she guessed that the stranger had come from the temple on Mount Yao, and the woman declared that it was for her sake that she had traveled 1,000 li. Then the mentor said that she was not afraid of threats, and in a moment she would overcome the 100 li that now separated her and the gate of the temple. Then she suggested that Yin Hongwu leave peacefully. Then the demoness said that this deal was not right for her. The purpose of her visit is to teach the people of Mount Yao a lesson for invading their lands and killing their children. She also added that she was sent by the demon lord himself to do the deed. Yin Hongwu also added that she could not leave until she had destroyed the preceptor's temple to the ground and killed his disciples. Finally, the demoness mouthed that of course she was not sent alone to do such a thing, and she said that she had reliable helpers for this demanding task. The distress signals sent by the mentor glowed brightly in the sky. The members of the demonic clan, led by Yin Hongwu, prepared for the coming attack. Mentor and Xu Zhan were waiting for help. Suddenly a white mist appeared. The prow of a ship with white sails cut through it. As it approached, knives of fire sprang from it, on which the female warriors descended. A wall of fire separated the two opposing forces. The female warriors who arrived steeled themselves, bowed and greeted the head. Yin Hongwu looked at all this and was pleased with this development. She decided that first they would have fun here, and then they would go to fight in enemy territory. The woman climbed on her winged kite and summoned the demonic creatures to attack. Xu Zhan did not expect the python to be a winged monster, but there was no time to consider the beast. The furious monsters went on the attack. A fierce battle ensued between the two clans. Yin Hongwu, perched on the head of a flying python, attacked the magic ship. Xu Zhan saw another opponent. A huge demon bear grew up in front of him, which was not only strong, but his 98 carbine would hardly penetrate it. The young man knew that if he used his rifle on it, it would only wound the monster a little. Xu Zhan spoke to his mentor and smilingly suggested that their side would most likely be defeated. At this point, the temple protector told the female commander that she was going to a secret place of the clan. There she intended to take the magical amulets so that she could continue to confront the monsters who were overly hostile. She also told her to take her disciples and retreat back. The defender of the temple ordered them to return to their places and guard the gates. The female commander received the instructions and proceeded to carry them out. At the end, she only asked the temple mistress to be more careful and take care of herself. The woman took out her magic ribbon again, restrained Xu Zhan, and dragged him after her. The young man only had time to shout out and ask his mentor to show him some respect. Well, no one responded to his wishes. Yin Hongwu saw the temple protector going somewhere. This did not make her very happy. She continued to be on the python's head and chased after her. She had to get the guy. She ordered the big bear to follow them as well. The battle was no longer as important to them. Now there was a new target. The demonic creatures were in pursuit. Soon their magic caught up with the temple keeper. The woman and the young man fell again. A red screen popped up in front of Xu Zhan with a new message from the system. The text was as follows: Enemy attack detected. System activates filler abilities. The young man was perplexed. What enemy attack? Where did it come from? Then he got up and called for his mentor. The woman lay unconscious. He understood that she had no system that would absorb attacks. From this it followed that the woman was under the influence of snake venom. At one point, Chuzan wondered if she was even alive. His mentor had been wounded the day before, and now she was poisoned. The woman's condition was clearly critical. The young man stood up, looking around. He could see from the cliff as the demon bear sought them out. The beast was approaching. One thing was clear to Chuzan: he had to run and save his life. And he had to do it quickly. Then he looked at his mentor, who was lying unconscious, and thought that he could not leave her here alone. Chuzan picked the woman up and rolled her onto his shoulder. He decided that he had to find a secluded place and try to extract the poison from her there. It remained to run. The young man did not hesitate. The demonic beings found the site of the fall of the mentor and the young man. Chuzan, meanwhile, was watching everything from the screen. The system broadcasted to him its observations of the hunters. The young man concluded that they were being tracked by scent and decided to outsmart the monsters. Chuzan constructed a scarecrow similar to himself and dressed it in his outer clothing and attached an explosive that was to be triggered by the signal. When the animals approached the scarecrow, the young man activated the bomb. It exploded. The system showed Chuzan that the big bear had been hit but not killed. Then the young man realized that such a weapon was weak against a demonic foe. Then he had a new idea. Chuzan stepped back to the bushes and relieved his bladder on them. Then, those very wet leaves, he rolled up into a napkin and called for his ghostly tiger cub. El Wumio immediately appeared before his master. Then the young man ordered him to take this wet roll and fly with it to the big bear. Once there, the kitten was to release the contents on the beast's head. The man also asked that his ghostly beastie make the beast do a good spin. His friend immediately smelled an unpleasant odor coming from the roll and refused to fly anywhere with it. Then Chuzan gave him an ultimatum and told him that if he did not go to comply with his request, he would be shut down for the rest of his life and would never see beautiful women again. The man's ruse worked. With tears in his eyes, the ghostly tiger cub carried the ill-fated package to its destination. The picture was quite amusing. Chuzan couldn't stand it and laughed out loud. Meanwhile, the young man was looking at the map of the forest that Ao Wumio had brought him. It was very handy and helped their rescue. The ghostly tiger cub had the task of leading the bear as far away from the boy and his mentor as possible. At this point, the system gave a message that the ghost tiger had already used up 30 points. It was requesting permission to continue his work. Chuzan felt sorry for wasting money. 30 points could have bought a double lens. He hesitated. Running away all the time was not a good option. The couple was in a critical situation. Beyond that, the young man knew he had to figure out how to save his mentor. The system suggested an injection of adrenaline. Chuzan didn't know if this substance would help disarm the poison, but there was no other choice. Now the young man faced a new question. He didn't know where to insert the needle. Chuzan began to remember that movies showed how adrenaline was injected directly into the heart. The young man hesitated for another minute, and then he swung and stuck the needle into the girl's chest. Then he injected the substance into the mentee's heart. She immediately opened her eyes and stood up. Chuzan shouted that he had just injected the medicine into her and asked her not to hit him. And the woman looked silently at the young man and did not understand where the catch was. In the moment of her particular weakness, he was thinking about how to save her life. All of this alarmed the woman. Then the mentor decided to wonder what she had missed. Chuzan quickly explained that one bear was chasing them. He also added that he had managed to intercept it and send it the wrong way. But they were running out of time and had to hurry. The woman got up and called the guy to follow her. She said she knew a place here where they could hide. The mentor led Chuzan to a waterfall. It was a very beautiful place. Then the young man noticed that it was just as beautiful as the first day they had met. The woman, meanwhile, touched the stone. The magic worked and opened the entrance to the cave. Meanwhile, the demon bear watched them. He saw where the man and woman had hidden. No sooner had they dived inside the cave than a big bear attacked them. The mentor and the young man were under water. A few seconds later, they were thrown into a room. The transfer resembled being thrown through a portal. The system issued a new warning. It read as follows: "Spiritual pressure has increased on inspection. The system is charging." Then the mentor told the young man that the spiritual pressure here is 10 times greater than outside. She also advised the boy that if he wanted to survive, he should not touch the trail of true energy. The young man looked around. The system was also scanning what was going on. It gathered information about the laws of the universe. Chu Zhang was given a 1% reward for his contribution to the research of the New World. The system also notified that the guy had been given 10 points of magical power, 20 points of vitality, and 100 points of spirit. And then there was the nicest part. The system gave out another text that notified you of a new skill. The message was of the following nature. Chick, you're so handsome LV4. Unlock the assault rifle and related consumables. You must buy spirit points to use the consumables. Both the place itself and the new opportunities and the reward were very interesting to the young man. Then Chu Zhan decided to ask his mentor where they had gone. The woman said that it was the secret place of her gate on Mount Yo, where the swords of the masters of past generations are buried. The mentor clarified that the so-called secret place, which is one of 3,000 small worlds, is a space connected to the main world or a place of improvement, and a source of defeat by a special force. The woman also added that the growth of the most numerous sects in the world is directly dependent on this secret place. Chu Zhan asked what this secret place produced. To this question, the woman replied that a sacred star. She added that every 100 years a celestial star from a sacred tree is born in this place. If one eventually succeeds in squeezing it into someone's body, then one can use the power of the star to strengthen them. The mentor then looked into Chu Zhang's eyes and asked him if he agreed to go further with her. If so, then he should wash away the old wounds and tread the right path. She also added that if he is alone, this is the only way to overcome his male limitations. Suddenly, the young man saw a bear catch up with them. The mentor told Chu Zhang that the spiritual pressure and the demonic power in this place push each other away. It only takes time for the forces to react. The one also shared that 10 generations of masters from the Mount Yo temple had established a sword graveyard in this small world, so it would be almost impossible to get out of here. Chu Zhan immediately wondered if the spiritual pressure outside wasn't stronger than here. He saw the big bear already climbing out of the portal, but the woman grabbed the young man's hand and dragged him behind her. At that moment, the system reacted again. It showed that the spiritual pressure in this secret place was so great that by staying here one could replenish unlimited points. The system reset again. At that moment, the big bear was approaching them and had already swung his axe, but the woman was calm. She said that the spiritual pressure here was 1,000 times greater than in the outside world. This meant that anyone who recklessly moved the true life force while in this place could simply explode and die. Suddenly the big bear was struck by an arrow that pierced his heart. The monster was killed by unknown creatures. Chu Zhan asked his mentor who these creatures were. Then the woman said that they were the local people of the place. They have dragon blood and are born warriors. The young man asked if they were enemies or friends, to which the mentor gave the unexpected answer that there were only enemies here. At that moment, the unknown creatures fired more arrows. The mentor hid Chu Zhan behind her back and intercepted the arrows. The locals went on the attack against the woman. Some of them were immediately killed by her. She then called Chu Zhan to follow her and told the creatures that if they dared to attack them, they would be killed. On the way, the young man asked the woman if it was possible to use true power gear, but she replied that she used a special martial art. The woman said that masters of past generations had made their way to the sacred forest only through this technique in order to receive the celestial star and use it to lead the clan. As the woman spoke, Chu Zhan's system downloaded his mentor's past and released her memories. He saw how, as a child, the mentor's parents were killed by evil forces. She was saved by Xuan Lin, who was the former head at Wrath Temple on Mount Yao. The girl grew up with her and was extremely talented. She eventually became a disciple of the clan. After the death of Xuan Lin, who was killed 10 years ago, the position of clan leader passed to a new young mentor. But the power of the mountain gates was not fully repaired by her.
Chu Ran's loyal companion, namely his little tiger ghost Ao Wu Miao, explored the area of this magical forest, thereby broadcasting to his master a system map that marked all the guardians with the dragon's blood, as well as a safe path through these lands. Chu Ran asked his mentor Yoji to let him show her how to avoid dragon blood patrolmen. This surprised her, but she did not refuse. At the end of the journey, she noted that this path was too successful and simple, which means that this is the calm before the storm. She warned her disciple that there was a sacred forest ahead of them, which was guarded by a dragon blood girl. This person will be much harder to deal with than ordinary guards. Right after that, an arrow shot out from the orange foliage of the sacred forest trees. However, it wasn't aimed at Yoji and Chu Ran, but at the unsuspecting Wu Miao, who continued to float peacefully above the land of this mysterious place. The flying animal had a doubly hard time. Not only was the arrow aimed at him, but it also hit him directly on the fifth point, which caused him great pain and embarrassment. However, the heroes didn't have time to be distracted by this trifle. Churan noticed that strange huge birds flew out of the sacred forest, flying straight at them. On these birds sat girls who were fully dressed in armor. The guards of the sacred forest shot a couple more arrows at the unwanted guests, but it was nothing to Yo Jai. Covering Churan with her body, she swung her sword, releasing a huge shockwave that became an impossible obstacle to the flying arrows. The birds also stopped flying forward, deciding to freeze in the air so as not to get hit. However, the red-haired girl sitting on one of them pulled out her huge bone sword from behind, releasing a similar shockwave, thereby blocking Yoji's strike and protecting her subordinates. There was an explosion in the air, and then the red-haired girl and two armored guards jumped down from their birds and stood in front of Yoji and Churan. As it turned out, the girl with red hair was not very tall. The guards behind her outnumbered her by a factor of 2. The red-haired girl started the conversation first. She called our heroes slow because they were already waiting for them. Yoji ignored this outburst, while Churan wondered at the red-haired girl's height, who was also a princess with dragon's blood. However, the girl also praised Yojai. Her sword spirit was stronger than she expected, and this man is very handsome. Therefore, the Dragon Blood Princess is determined to defeat her using the aura of her sword and then take Churan for herself. The guy himself was mildly surprised by such statements, but Yoji only teased the short princess, saying that her hair had not grown back yet, and she already wanted to deprive her of a man. The redhead was not at a loss and responded with a barb for a barb, saying that the main thing is youth, and not to be like the skin of an old vegetable. Yoji wasn't as resilient as the Dragon Blood Princess, and this taunt made her angry. She launched the attack first, releasing the aura of her sword directly at the enemies. The guards behind the princess jumped out of the way. The red-haired girl herself continued to stand still and took the full brunt of the blow without getting the slightest injury. Even the ground behind her was destroyed, but the princess herself remained standing as if nothing had happened. After that, she attacked by herself, also emitting the aura of her sword, which was much more destructive than Yojin's aura. Churan was shocked that such a small girl would be able to cause such a huge amount of destruction in one hit. She was clearly stronger than Yojai, but that didn't stop the boy's mentor. She attacked the red-haired princess from above, but something happened that she could not have expected. The Dragon Blood Princess repelled Yoji's attack with her body. The blade of the mentor's sword couldn't even leave a scratch on the girl's seemingly fragile body. It's time for the princess to attack as well. She swung her huge sword that was about half the size of herself, but Yoji managed to dodge it. The mentor immediately realized that the Dragon Blood Princess had absorbed the star treasure. She asked the girl directly. She put her sword on her shoulder and confirmed it. She also added that one should not assume that only the human race can improve. Yoji realized that they couldn't defeat the Dragon Blood Princess, so they had to run. He ordered Churan to run first, while Yoji covered for him. However, the red-haired girl didn't like the idea. She shouted out that she didn't let them escape from the fight, leaped into the air, and attacked Yoji with her sword. She managed to block the blow, but then it flew a couple of meters straight into one of the trees behind. Such power struck Yojai. Also, due to the high pressure, the mentor couldn't use her true power here, which meant that they wouldn't be able to break through the Dragon Blood Princess defenses. She was just thinking that their days were numbered when Churan himself stepped in. He put his back to his mentor, hoping to protect her. The Dragon Blood Princess only chuckled when she saw this scene. She remarked on his beauty again, but it wouldn't help him save Yojai. Churan just chuckled and asked if he really looked that weak. This question only made the Dragon Blood Princess laugh. Calling Churan funny, the girl ran straight at him, saying that if he stood in front of her, then he could only have one ending, death. She was about to cut the guy in half, but she didn't expect Churan to have a trump card up his sleeve. The guy pulled out a newly generated hunting rifle from his clothes, which caught the Dragon Blood Princess off guard. However, she didn't expect that this unfamiliar weapon would be able to injure her, so she continued to run forward. At this time, Shuran was already aiming at the red-haired girl, hitting her shoulder and sending her flying several meters away. Even the guards, who had been standing motionless on the sidelines all this time, were surprised. They immediately ran to their princess to help her up, while Yoji analyzed what had happened in her mind. The spiritual pressure in this place is very high. It is completely cut off from the outside world. And even if this girl has absorbed a sacred star, she has absolutely no defensive power. Yoji fell for the princess' ploy. Surprised and enraged at the same time, the Dragon Blood Princess asked what kind of weapon Shuran had and how he managed to smash her treasure with one blow. However, Shuran ignored all her questions, saying only that she was imperfect and knew what she was talking about. He suggested that she retreat so that she could heal her wound and get back at him later, but this made the princess even angrier. She demanded that her Dragon Blood clan not be confused with a human clan. Getting up from the ground, the red-haired girl dug her fingers into the wound, pulling out the bullet through pain and agony. Shuran was amazed at how simple it was. After that, the guards approached their mistress and handed her a vessel with a certain liquid. After drinking it, the Dragon Blood Princess completely healed her wound, which greatly startled Shuran. The Dragon Blood Princess was once again full of excitement as she waited for Shuran's next attack to come from the tensed-up Shuran. The Dragon Blood Princess, who had healed her wounds, fiercely charged at her opponent, swinging her huge sword. Shuran didn't expect such speed from the red-haired girl and was quite surprised, which caused him to hesitate and let her get close enough for the princess to cut his hunting rifle in half. She yelled furiously that she wasn't going to let Shuran use her artifact again, but this time the guy didn't hesitate and generated a grenade, immediately throwing it into the air. However, the projectile was instantly cut in half by the Dragon Blood Princess. It was a distraction so that Shuran would have time to activate another grenade, which emitted a huge column of smoke. The Dragon Blood Princess mistook this move for an escape attempt, which she didn't like very much. She shot a few red rays of aura towards Shuran. They swept away absolutely everything in their path and cut trees in half, flying away into the distance. The Dragon Blood Princess was wondering how Shuran would be able to escape from such an attack, and she continued to launch powerful clots of aura in his direction. They were getting stronger and stronger each time. The entire battle was also watched by Yoji, who couldn't believe the strength of their enemy and her own disciple. The Dragon Blood Princess temporarily stopped her devilish bombardment to say that she saw Shuran using something to block the energy of her dragon sword. A second later, she saw everything with her own eyes and was very shocked. Shuran's body was covered in a golden coating and became as hard as steel. This meant only one thing: Shuran, despite the spiritual pressure, moved his aura freely and did not die. This was also noticed by Yoji, who had been at a loss for words throughout the fight. In the end, Shuran explained to the Dragon Blood Princess that she was convinced that the spiritual pressure here didn't work for the boy and that he could use his abilities safely. However, this didn't bother the princess much. She decided to take a look at Shuran's defense and see how many blows of her formidable sword he could withstand. Shuran chuckled. His magic powers really won't be able to withstand many blows, however, as the Chinese writer Luke Sin didn't say, if you don't have enough mana, then take a kalash. With that, Shuran generated an AK-47 in his hands, starting to wash the Dragon Blood Princess down with a hail of bullets. She had no choice but to simply block the blows, holding out her huge sword in front of her. Its size came in very handy red-haired girl. Meanwhile, the guards who finally decided to help their princess threw their swords at Shuran, the damage from which he managed to absorb with the help of magic protection. The Dragon Blood Princess, who had been hiding behind her huge sword until now, was shocked by what she saw. Shuran defended against the guards' sword throw by once again using defensive magic and turning his skin golden. He calmly took the sword away from his sword and, with a sudden change of emotions, started shooting into the air, shouting furiously about how his enemies had acted unfairly. The Dragon Blood Princess, whose face was gradually covered in her green blood, decided to ask directly if Shuran was actually able to use real-life force in this place. The guy, grinning, confirmed this by reactivating his defense and suggested that the red-haired girl try to attack again if she did not believe in his words. However, the Dragon Blood Princess decided not to push her luck. Noticing that there was something special about this man, she jumped on a huge griffin that was already flying towards her, leaving her sword on the ground. The guards followed the example of their mistress and jumped on their griffins, after which the three of them flew into oblivion, but the Dragon Blood Princess promised Churan that she would come back and take revenge on him for this duel. The guy himself did not expect such a turn. He thought it was supposed to be a life and death battle, but his opponent simply ran away. Yeonja guessed that the Dragon Blood Princess might have been frightened by Churan's ability to use true life force. The guy relaxed and called his opponent cowardly, seeing no reason to be afraid of the life force. After seeing the sword that the Dragon Blood Princess left behind, Churan noticed that the sword looked very valuable and he might be able to keep it for himself. At this time, Yeonji, who had regained some of her strength after the battle, told Churan that the spiritual pressure here was caused by the heavenly barrier formed during the creation of the world. And no matter how high your cultivation level is, there's no way around that pressure. However, in her mind, she also noted that there are exceptions to this rule. A great Buddha or an ancient mythical animal, embodied by the heavens, is able to resist the barrier and does not feel pressure. Churan replied that perhaps he was special. He touched the sword so that the system could scan the weapon. When the system finished scanning, it asked its host to contribute 1% to the research of new biological types, for which Churan will receive a reward. The guy did as he was advised by the system, for which he received a reward. Its status has been restored, and the cooldown time has been reset to 0. He also received a new skill, the power of the Tiger Celestial. Now, Aowumeo is able to absorb the remains of higher beings and, thanks to this, mutate. Churan summoned his loyal tiger cub and was asked to demonstrate a new skill. As he obeyed, he glanced at the Dragon Blood Princess' discarded sword with great appetite. It opened its surprisingly large mouth and began to eat the weapon. After a few seconds, there was nothing left of the sword. Churan was shocked. He didn't think Aowumio's skill worked like this, but he didn't have time to deal with it. Yeonji called out to her disciple, asking what he was messing around with. He quickly hid Aowumeo inside the system, then asked his mentor what they were going to do next. Yeonji replied that before they could figure out their plan, they should first get the Sky Star. After a while, they were already in the middle of this forest, right next to the tree where the heavenly stars grew. It was the first time Churan had ever seen such a huge tree, which seemed to stretch all the way to the clouds. Churan was curious about how this tree could grow so big, but he didn't get an answer to his question. Yeonji touched the tree, then a sphere descended from the highest branches towards them. As it turned out, they were very lucky. Venus suddenly turned out to be a metal celestial star. However, Yeonji also noticed that on the way here, they'd no longer encountered the Dragon Blood clan. This may mean that they are waiting for a trap, and they should be careful and need to hurry. Churan asked where they needed to hurry, but when she didn't get an answer, she grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and walked inside the sphere. Their clothes were left outside. They were completely naked. Churan was very confused by this turn of events, when suddenly Yeonji clung to him and asked him to be patient for a while, after which they were both enveloped in incredible pain. Everything was engulfed in starlight. The Sky Star was gone. She was absorbed in Yeonji and Churan. However, for some reason, the guy was covered with a crust of stone. Destroying it from the inside out made him feel disgusting. However, his appearance has changed. His hair was longer and his features coarser. Yeonji, while putting on her clothes, explained to her disciple that it was because of his poor spiritual resistance. Without the heavenly star to help him temper his resistance, his life force would still be at the first level of key refinement. She also added that although the origin of male cultivation is common, a reincarnation like Churan's is very rare. The guy, after finally destroying his stone dungeon that enveloped his body, replied that the cultivation of immortality does not only depend on the source. No matter how good it is not a guarantee of victory. After checking his system, Churan was surprised to realize that all of his attributes had doubled, except, oddly enough, his intelligence. Even his skills were given an extra boost. His thoughts were interrupted by Yoji, who warned her disciple that for his next cultivation, she would have to make her disciple a little uglier. This surprised Chu Ran quite a bit. He asked if growing up beautiful was really a problem for him now. However, everything turned out to be much more prosaic. Yoji believed that beautiful men can only flirt with young girls, which Chu Ran considered to be blatant sexual discrimination, which, in fact, he was right. However, their argument was interrupted by an unexpected earthquake. Soon, huge bones grew out of the ground, trapping Chu Ran and his mentor inside a kind of bone dungeon. This was the Dragon Blood clan's trap. A whole horde of armored warriors surrounded our heroes, their bows ready. Among this huge army, there was also a girl in a beautiful outfit, with the Dragon Blood princess standing next to her, pointing at Chu Ran, claiming that he was the one who broke her body. This girl was the Dragon Blood Queen. Chu Ran, confused, asked the princess to choose her words, because her words were ambiguous. The Dragon Blood Queen blamed the unexpected guests for injuring her daughter and also dared to steal the Sky Star belonging to their clan. She ordered arrows to be fired at them, but they were all repelled by Chu Ran, who used the peak-by-peak defensive technique to shield his mentor. All the arrows that hit the guy's body broke in half and did not cause any damage to him. Thanks to the recent boost, Chu Ran didn't even feel the touch of those arrows. Yoji released an aura from her sword, trying to destroy the bone cage, but there were runes inscribed on them that absorbed the sword's aura as soon as they touched it. The Dragon Blood Queen has ordered the humans to surrender, and then she will spare them, otherwise they will die. The princess continued to dream about Chu Ran, wanting to turn him into a big bird for riding. Angry, Chu Ran generated an AK-47, just like in the previous battle, and fired a hail of bullets at the warriors. The queen and princess were protected by heavy shields, but Chu Ran did not hesitate and threw a grenade at them, which immediately detonated. The infuriated Dragon Blood Queen ordered her subordinates to ring the bell to summon the sacrificial spirits. She wants them to consume the souls of these people. A huge shadow stretched out over the sacred forest, dwarfing even the huge tree in the center of the thicket. Then, as if out of nowhere, a light mist began to appear. Chu Ran and Yoji tensed up. The enemies didn't look calm either. Quite the opposite. They were afraid. The Dragon Blood princess was already begging Chu Ran to surrender, and then he would be spared. Otherwise, he will face a painful death from the Soul Stealer, from which there is no escape. However, her mother, the Dragon Blood Queen, decided not to encourage her daughter. The sacrificial items are already laid out on the altar, which means that neither Yoji nor Chu Ran can be saved from the Soul Stealer. The Soul Lord was getting closer and closer to the tree. Chu Ran asked his mentor who it was. In the sky, behind the storm clouds, a huge dark silhouette appeared. Judging from it, the Soul Stealer should be at least the size of a huge tree in the middle of the forest. Yoji told her disciple that the Soul Stealer is the protector of the Dragon Blood tribe and is supposedly a powerful ancient mythical animal. The huge silhouette got even closer. It seemed to be directly above them. A huge wind rose from his landing on the ground. However, when the Soul Stealer descended, it wasn't a huge, majestic creature at all. It was a small red bird that Chu Ran thought was a small chicken. The Soul Stealer was outraged by this audacity and demanded the guy to get down on his knees and admit his guilt, but he only continued to sarcasm. He boasted that since such a little boy was called the king, he was a real deity himself. To play his part, he even asked the Soul Stealer to kneel before him. However, the divine chicken only brushed him off, calling Chu Ran nothing compared to the great him. Chu Ran ignored the Soul Stealer's attack, suggesting that Yoji should tame him as a pet. This greatly angered the divine chicken king. He decided that Chu Ran only deserved to die, so he flew up and let out a huge amount of purple flames. Chu Ran and Yoji were completely engulfed in this fire. At this point, a system alert was triggered. She notified Chu Ran that a true spirit energy attack had been made and the system was being recharged. Chu Ran noted that the Soul Stealer was indeed capable, and he wondered if he could use his true essence to ignite a flame here. He also wondered why the fire was so cold. The Soul Stealer was unpleasantly surprised. He furiously called Chu Ran a cretin and an idiot. The guy responded with an insult to the insult and asked his mentor what kind of flame it was. Yoji replied that the fire of the soul is the fire of hell, using bad karma as fuel. Once a person uses it, they can never get rid of it. Churan decided to clarify what his mentor meant by bad karma. Yoji replied that not only bad actions are considered bad karma, but even evil thoughts are considered bad karma. Faced with such a poisonous fire, even the Buddha himself would have to retreat. Churan was glad that he was able to fend off this fire, but the soul stealer replied that it was just that the guy was an idiot and didn't have a brain. This angered Churan, and he started trying to catch the smug chicken, but all his attempts were futile, and the soul stealer continued to gloat. Yoji was watching this performance when she suddenly noticed that there was a piece of soul fire left on her finger. Churan looked back and saw that his mentor Yoji's finger was burning with soul fire, so he immediately ran to her and tried to extinguish it, but the fire only increased, and soon Yoji's entire hand was covered in soul flames. This may indicate that as soon as Churan ran up to her, she was filled with bad thoughts. The soul stealer, lazily sunbathing in the bright sun, suggests that they do not waste their energy and wait until Yoji is fried to a fragrant crust, because they still will not put out this fire, no matter how hard they try and what they do. The chicken also suggested that they burn themselves so that the soul stealer could enjoy the show, but his words only made Churan a little angry. He once again generated an AK-47, launching a hail of bullets at the divine chicken, ordering it to remove the soul fire from its mentor. The bullets hit right on target. The stunned soul stealer fell to the ground and quickly regained his senses. Asking Churan how he dared to attack the Chicken King himself, but the guy ignored his accusations and questions and put the barrel of the machine gun directly to the chicken's forehead. He tried to blackmail him by ordering him to put out the fire on his mentor Yoji, otherwise Churan would put a whole magazine of bullets in his forehead. However, unexpectedly for the guy, the chicken transformed and became a huge pumped-up cock. Compared to him, Churan was a bug. The soul stealer was 3 times bigger than the guy. The divine rooster struck Churan with its heavy fist, then immediately kicked out, pushing Churan away and knocking him out with the submachine gun. Churan flew into the nearest wall. Some of the soul stealer's feathers were left on it, flying around. After catching his breath, Churan asked the chicken if he knew about military ethics. This question only confused the divine rooster, who was about to cut the guy's face with his sharp golden claws, but Churan managed to use the peak after peak technique. Thanks to the heavenly star, Churan's techniques, including this one, became stronger, causing him to hit the rooster's chest before it could attack. The soul stealer was shocked that some guy managed to use true essence in this place. Confused, he loosened his guard, giving Churan the opportunity to land another punch, this time directly on the rooster's cheek. These blows did not pass without a trace. The soul stealer felt the pain of them, which made him even angrier. It started to shoot out many fiery shots from its legs, but Churan easily dodged each one before grabbing the brazen rooster by the neck. He again asked the soul stealer to put out the soul fire on Yoji, but the latter replied that he had only recently mastered this technique and was not yet able to reverse it. Hearing this, Churan was distracted by his mentor, who continued to blaze with pink flames. Taking advantage of the moment, the Soul Eater immediately got out of Churan's grip and tried to escape. As he flew away, he once again called the guy an idiot, adding that soul fire is the power of the Great Tao. Even if the Buddha himself arrives here, it will be impossible to change anything. Only death awaits Yoji. However, Churan wasn't going to let go of the soul stealer so easily. Once again generating an AK-47, he began his bombardment, but this time the divine chicken dodged every shot. Churan ran out of ammo at a very bad time. He tried to take the soul stealer on Slibo and challenge him to a one-on-one battle, but the cowardly creature only laughed at him, saying that he would fight him if the guy managed to destroy his cage. Churan threw a punch at the cage in a rage, but not even a crack appeared on it. The soul stealer continued to sneer at the boy. As expected, this cage is created from the remains of dragon bones, which makes it not so easy to destroy it. Suddenly, Yoji called out to her disciple. Turning around, Churan was intimidated. His mentor was completely covered in pink flames. In order to slow down the spread of the soul fire, Yeonji began to meditate. However, it didn't help much. A searing pain enveloped her entire body, and her clothes began to slowly burn. Churan, holding his head, didn't know what to do. He couldn't let his mentor burn to death, but there was nothing he could do, since the system could only protect him from damage. The Soul Stealer, not understanding what Churan was talking about, had already put on a handkerchief, taken out a knife and fork, and was waiting with drool on his face for Yeonji to burn out. Suddenly, out of the blue, Wu Miao came to his master's rescue. However, this time it was material. This meant that he had advanced to the next level after eating the Dragon Blood Princess sword. Taking advantage of the moment, Shu Ran ordered Wu Miao to eat the bones that formed the cage. His faithful animal obeyed and immediately went to one of the bones. A surprised Soul Stealer was watching, thinking that nothing would surprise him anymore. Wu Miao bit the bone with ease, entering the divine chicken in earnest. It violently swooped down on Wu Miao, trying to stab him with its sharp claws, but the blue tiger cub easily dodged the attack, much to the Soul Stealer's surprise. He tried to attack again, using his long-range paw attack, called Diamond Claws, but he was waiting for another miss. Meanwhile, while Wu Miao was eating the bone cage while fighting off the Soul Stealer, Shu Ran was thinking about what he could do. The Soul Ego is a paragon of the power of the Great Tao, which means that the armband he just generated is able to stop the blood and extinguish the soul fire. He tried to tie Yeonji's arm, and it worked. The fire was instantly extinguished, which really pleased the guy. Shu Ran began to completely wrap his mentor in special bandages. After finishing, Yeonji was covered in lightning, which attracted Wu Miao's attention with the Soul Stealer. As it turned out, the bandages not only extinguished the soul fire burning Yeonji's body, but also allowed her to protect herself from the spiritual pressure. Even Shu Ran himself hadn't expected such an effect, however, it was to their advantage. The Soul Stealer watching this scene was sweating profusely and couldn't believe what he was seeing. What he saw with his own eyes was completely unscientific. With his shouts, he attracted Yeonji's attention. She asked him a Laterian question if he wanted to eat it. The Soul Stealer had no choice but to run away from her at full speed and try to escape. By this time, Wu Miao had already eaten a hole in the cage, thanks to which Yeonji calmly got out of the trap and went straight after the cowardly divine chicken. It even fried his tail, which caused him incredible pain. However, he managed to escape. When he was safely away, he started bragging again, saying that he would never forgive them. Chu Ran asked his mentor if this chicken was a mythical animal, and if so, why is it so weak? Yeonji replied that this red bird was indeed a legacy from ancient times, but for some reason its power had fallen. She also added that they must capture him to dominate everyone. The value of the blood of a mythical animal is immeasurable, and therefore they need to grab this chicken at all costs. Yeonji, along with his disciple Chu Ran, chased after the Soul Stealer, not letting him get away from them. Moreover, they were overtaking him. When Yeonji was directly above the Soul Stealer, she released a huge bolt of lightning, which, unfortunately, the mythical animal managed to dodge and hit the ground, leaving a huge crevice in the form of a cross. Yeonji, along with Chu Ran, descended to the spot where the blow had landed. The girl asked Chu Ran if they would let him escape or if they would continue their pursuit. The guy also asked his loyal pet Wu Miao to find the Soul Stealer. If he made it, then Chu Ran would definitely reward him with something nice and delicious. Wu Miao, determined not to miss the opportunity to eat heartily, flew into the air, starting to chase after the divine rooster. The Soul Stealer, his ass on fire, plunged into the crystal water in the middle of the forest. As it turned out, there he managed to heal his wounds. This meant that it was not ordinary water, but a spiritual spring with healing properties. Thanks to Wu Miao, they managed to reach this place. It was surrounded by a golden barrier, inside which the chicken lived. Upon entering the barrier, Yeonji was surprised. The system had told its master Chu Ran that there was a normal spiritual pressure in this, which meant that they could use their powers without difficulty. After walking a little further, Yeonji found strange-looking orange, blue, and purple-colored crystals. The orange crystals turned out to be the raw ore of Skylord Taya. Finished products made from this mineral are essential materials for refining the best celestial magical artifacts. For almost 1,000 years, no new deposits of these minerals have been discovered in several large mountain gates. Shuran immediately smelled the smell of money. If they sold all this stuff, they would surely make a fortune for the rest of their lives. In addition, there were also absolute void black stones and Venus ore. This dome was filled with incredibly valuable resources. However, the Soul Stealer noticed them. He called them shameless thieves and prepared to attack with all his strength, because in this place, the spiritual pressure is normal, which means that his strength is not limited by anything. Chicken using the divine fire attack technique. In response, Yanji shot a bolt of lightning at the divine being, deflecting it. Shuran immediately entered the peak after peak form and waited for the attack from the Soul Stealer. The divine being was already flying towards them in a rage, once again releasing projectiles full of mythical energy. However, he didn't notice Aowumio walking around and grabbing him from behind, holding a grenade in his mouth, which instantly detonated. However, this strike caused almost no damage to the divine being. He decided to go into close combat and was about to stab Shuran right through when he pulled out a frying pan from his pants, counterattacking Rooster. The Soul Stealer flew to the side and asked what kind of formidable weapon it was. Shuran replied that it was a magical weapon for observing the laws of the Great Tao, which could not be penetrated or damaged in any way. After saying that, he started hitting the poor chicken with one blow after another with that monstrous frying pan. After a while, the great mythical creature ran out of strength and allowed itself to be captured, begging for mercy. Yonji rejected Shuran's idea. This chicken is able to ignite the fire of the soul, which means that it is the oldest descendant with the fire ability. This means that ordinary fire will not be able to kill. However, Shuran said that these 5 elements interact with fire and water, which means that they can make stew if he is not dead. From these conversations, the Soul Stealer broke out in sweat. However, Shuran had a better idea. He covered the cockerel's body with clay and decided to roast it. The cornered chicken kept snapping, to which the guy threatened that if he didn't tell him what tribe he was from, he would immediately be fried. Also asked why the Dragon Blood clan considers the Soul Stealer to be a sacred spirit. He replied that he had unlimited power, which is why the Dragon Blood clan wants to worship him. Naturally, this was a lie, which even Shuran understood. He asked Yoji to find some mushrooms in the area and then put them out together with the rooster. However, his mentor had another idea. It would be too wasteful to just eat the oldest descendant of mythical creatures, because he is all from head to toe, a jewel that is perfect for brewing potions. Suddenly, a huge cauldron appeared out of nowhere in front of Yoji. It has a true fire burning in it, which will make the cockerel even more useful. Shocked, Shuran asked his mentor where she got such a large item from. She replied with bewilderment that it was just a crease bracelet and asked if her student didn't have one like it. The latter, not at a loss, replied that he did not expect that such a large object could be put into an amulet. Taking advantage of the moment, the divine chicken escaped Shuran's grasp and flew up into the air. He used an aura of intimidation. Feeling the advantage, the cockerel began to brag again. After all, he lives 10,000 years longer than they do, and fighting creatures like him can make people want to die themselves. However, Shuran's chicken technique didn't work, which made him quite shocked. After making one big jump, Shuran once again hit the mythical creature with the frying pan, telling it that its negative techniques didn't work for it. Deciding not to delay any longer, he opened the cauldron and threw the divine chicken into it. He began to beg for mercy, telling the guy his real story. As it turns out, he belongs to the Zhu-Kui Red Bird clan. Thousands of years ago, he was chased by the human race, keeping up with the immortals. He was forced to flee to this place, and only in recent decades has he managed to recover from all the injuries. His bloodline allows him to use true essence techniques equivalent to the power of the human foundation. Such power impressed the Dragon Blood clan, which was why they considered it a sacred animal. Shuran was disappointed by this story. What they considered to be a sacred animal was just a dummy, but Yoji was satisfied with this, because just one drop of the red bird Zhu's blood can make a person immortal, allowing them to cultivate a rare genius. This meant that they could still brew the most beautiful elixir from this chicken. Satisfied, Chu Ran put the poor chicken back into the cauldron. The latter, with tears in his eyes, desperately asked him to let go, but the only thing he was allowed to do was say the last words. He took the opportunity to tell his captor that he knew about the existence of a treasure left by ancient sages thousands of years ago. If they let him go, he might lead them to him. This option suited Chu Ran perfectly. Oddly enough, the divine chicken actually led them to something. They were standing at the entrance of a huge cave that Chicken had said had a treasure hidden in it. Yoji urged her companions on. After all, it had already been a full day since they entered the secret realm. If the demons really attacked the mountain gate, then perhaps a full-fledged war had already begun outside. However, Chu Ran didn't really listen to his mentor. He continued to mock the poor chicken, threatening to slowly simmer it for several months if it dared to lie to them. Then, using the poor animal as a lantern, they went inside, where they found statues of unknown people placed around a strange ancient portal. Chu Ran immediately recognized the structure. Yoji also noted that it wasn't surprising that the spiritual pressure in this place was normal. This meant that someone had already opened this portal a long time ago, and the 10 generations of Yao Mountain sect masters who were able to balance the spiritual energy of the place with thousands of years of power sources should have long had the ability to reach the heavens. Then Zhuk, a descendant of the Red Birds, intervened in the conversation, demanding to be released, for which he would take them to the treasure. However, Chu Ran only sneered, saying that they had only reached the portal, not the treasure. So he's in no hurry. He also decided to have some fun, starting to spin the poor chicken with great speed, which he clearly did not like. After passing through the portal, they appeared in a similar place, but now there was only a huge cane covered with a transparent barrier. Chu Ran immediately flew into a rage, thinking that the chicken had deceived them, but the latter, even more angry than the guy, explained to him that this was not an ordinary stick, but a divine weapon of the heavenly class. Shaixin, the person who chased after him, used this weapon to suppress his power. However, Chu Ran didn't even understand what a heavenly weapon was. After he finally let go of the chained chicken, the latter told him that weapons and treasures are divided into 4 levels. 2 of them are heaven and earth. The heaven level was much more powerful than the earth level, and the most outstanding weapon of this type could be called a divine weapon. However, Chu Ran was perplexed. Since this weapon is so powerful, why didn't the divine chicken itself use it? The latter, obviously lying, said that he simply did not like such rough and strong things. However, Chu Ran already understood the real reason. He simply didn't have the strength to destroy the recording crystal that surrounded this staff. Chicken denied it, of course, because he was a great king, and if he wasn't injured, he could even melt a mountain peak. However, their argument was interrupted by Yoji releasing a bolt of lightning. The impact was incredibly powerful and raised a huge column of dust, but the sealing crystal calmly withstood the entire discharge without receiving any injuries. Chu Ran decided to try summoning Wu Miao, who would happily eat anything he could lay his hands on. However, he was unable to bite through this crystal. Yoji guessed that a heavenly weapon of this level couldn't be sealed with magic that could bend under ordinary brute force. Angry, Chu Ran grabbed the divine chicken by the throat, reproaching it for not trying to help them. Fearing for his life, the chicken said that he had an idea and asked Chu Ran to take out his treasure. He pulled out a frying pan, but the bird meant something that shoots arrows. As it turned out, he was referring to the AK-47. The chicken explained to Chu Ran that even though his weapon was powerful, the material that the bullets were made from was too bad. Chu Ran immediately understood his plan. Ordinary bullets in this world were indeed weakly able to penetrate even ordinary people. However, if you replace them with punchy ones that cause bleeding and poisoning, then it's not a fact that anyone will be able to resist it. The guy asked the chicken where he could find the materials, but the chicken just grinned, because Chu Ran has such a valuable beast as the sky-flying tiger, which means he can't have any problems with resources. Chu Ran initially didn't understand that the sky-swallowing tiger was Wu Miao and even asked again. Yoji, who happened to overhear their conversation, was surprised that her disciple had such a rare creature. Divine Chicken confirmed Chu Ran's words. This is truly the heaven-swallowing tiger of heaven. However, this information was not enough for the guy. He didn't even know what the heaven-swallowing tiger was capable of and asked Yoji about it. She replied that his pet was an ancient spirit beast that ate ore or the remains of other spirit beasts. After the raw ore is eaten by this tiger, it will immediately be processed into extremely pure ore, and it will immediately be processed into the best quality metal. Suddenly, Ao Wu Miao's stomach rumbled. After flying away from its master and moving behind the ceiling crystal, it landed on the ground, starting to glow. After a while, a huge pile of shining golden-colored pebbles was formed under it. Churan immediately knew that this was the refined material that his mentor had told him about. Yoji, on the other hand, took a closer look at the mysterious stones and realized that they were first-class dragon gold, which was apparently obtained after eating dragon bones. Divine Chicken supplemented her words by saying that dragon gold is an incredibly sharp and strong substance. Yoji immediately realized that this was a perfect material for Churan's bullets. She gave her disciple one piece, then took the rest of the pile for herself. Churan was pleased with their discovery. After a while, the Divine Chicken used the soul fire to melt a piece of dragon gold and shape it into the desired shape and gave it to Churan. The latter placed it in the machine gun, aimed at the ceiling crystal, and pulled the trigger. The bullet instantly flew out of the muzzle and, when it came into contact with the crystal, formed a not weak explosion which raised a column of smoke around. Yoji pointed out that even a Jindang-level cultivator couldn't block such a strike. In the future, if someone dared to challenge his level 2 cultivation skill, he would regret his choice. Churan immediately asked his mentor for more material for these beautiful bullets, but Yoji's greed would not allow her to give her disciple even a small piece of dragon gold. Churan, of course, tried to challenge this. After all, this material was refined by his heavenly swallowing tiger, which means that at least half of the material should go to him, but Yoji took advantage of her status as a mentor and kept everything for herself. As they argued, the Divine Chicken taunted him because they didn't even know that he had a full supply of dragon gold. However, their arguments were interrupted by the smoke finally settling, which showed them that the ceiling crystal was once again intact. Churan couldn't believe what he was seeing and fell into a rage and shock at the same time. Dissatisfied with this result, Churan once again began to torment the poor Divine Chicken, accusing it of cheating because he promised that they would be able to destroy this crystal. He was sweating profusely and said it was impossible. According to his calculations, there was no way the crystal could survive. Suddenly, the ground shook under their feet, and huge cracks appeared on the floor from the crystal, which even made our heroes afraid for a moment. However, after a few seconds, the Divine Chicken was already bragging about its precise calculations. The ceiling crystal fell sideways, along with the cane inside, but it was still intact. Churan wondered how they would manage to take this colossus, since it weighed at least 9 tons. Yoji suggested that they leave it here, since no one else knows about this place. In addition, they need to return to the mountain gate and deal with all the demons. Suddenly, Churan noticed that the crystal had a tip at its end. Remembering his high school physics curriculum, he pulled a frying pan out of his pants and slammed it down with all his strength. It was instantly covered with cracks, after which the entire ceiling crystal shattered, and the cane began to glow with a golden color. This destruction caused a shockwave, which caused Yoji and the chicken to also notice what had happened. The cane was engraved with Ling Yang. Churan had heard the name somewhere, but he couldn't remember where. When suddenly, the cane began to shrink, becoming to match the growth of the guy. Yoji asked her disciple how he managed to break the ceiling crystal. Churan happily began to tell his mentor about the physical principle of Rupert's tears and the internal tension of objects, but Yoji had long since stopped listening to him, slowly walking towards the cane. When it touched the weapon, it instantly threw the woman away, releasing a small drop of energy. The Divine Chicken explained to the people that the heavenly divine weapon only recognizes its master and will never submit to mere mortals. Deciding that he was the true owner of the weapon, he affectionately hugged him, after which he received an incredibly strong electric shock, which even caused smoke to rise from the chicken. Churan, meanwhile, was scanning the cane. The system reacted very unexpectedly. Upon discovering such an important item, according to the rules, it unlocked Shu Ran's main quest. Its main goal was to collect enough information about the world, including biological samples, the structure of space and objects. As a reward, he will get the opportunity to open a world shuttle, thanks to which he will be able to return to his original world. At the moment, his mission is 5% complete. However, if Shu Ran doesn't complete at least 1% of this value every week, then the system will be forced to issue him a penalty. If Shu Ran missed completing the scale for 3 consecutive weeks, then he would be wiped off the map. The guide realized with displeasure that he would have to become much stronger than he is now in order to complete the main quest, and therefore he needed the staff. He touched it, but the weapon resisted. Yeonji ordered her disciple to retreat because this weapon would burn him to death, but he didn't listen. He activated the peak-by-peak technique and held onto it all the way to the end. In the end, it was completely surrounded by golden flames, after which an explosion occurred. Shu Ran, after unsuccessfully trying to control the staff, flew to Yeonji's feet. His mentor, looking at the weapon, was horrified. It was held in the hand of a certain man in snow-white clothes and silver long hair. The divine chicken was terrified. This person had been sealed for 10,000 years, but he still hadn't dissipated. Yeonji wasn't amused either. She could sense an incredibly strong aura from this man, several times her strength. Shu Ran, recovering from the blow, asked the man who had suddenly appeared who he was and why he had stolen his stick. Shu Ran looked at him with a sharp, disapproving gaze and pointed his staff at him, which instantly grew in size and almost pierced Shu Ran's body, but Shu Ran managed to generate a bulletproof vest and a legendary frying pan, thanks to which he was able to defend himself, but he was still pinned against the wall. Yeonji was about to protect her disciple by shooting lightning at the stranger, but the stranger defended with the same staff that took the shape of an umbrella, absorbing the woman's magic and releasing it back into her. A beam of energy pierced her shoulder and narrowly missed her head. Thinking that he had defeated his opponents, the man started to brag about his abilities when suddenly a pile of grenades of all kinds appeared under his feet. The stranger was clearly not expecting this. There was an explosion of great force which distracted the man. Meanwhile, Shu Ran grabbed his mentor and headed out of this cursed place. As he ran, he kept blaming the divine chicken for everything, believing that it was all his plan to unseal this stranger so that he could kill them both. However, he only called him an idiot because this was the same person who had chased him 10,000 years ago, and now he wasn't even able to escape from it, so there was no point in him opening it. They had already seen the exit of the cave when suddenly a huge beam of energy was released from its depths. Soon, the same man who couldn't let them leave so easily got in their way. After activating the peak-by-peak technique, Shu Ran announced that he wasn't going to hide. After generating his trusty skillet, he tried to attack the man, but was once again prevented by the staff, which took the form of a hand and grabbed Shu Ran. The stranger asked Shu Ran how he dared to attack him, but Shu Ran took advantage of the moment to summon a Wu Moao and order him to bite the man. He unconditionally obeyed the order and bit the man right on the head. In an attempt to get rid of the heavenly tiger, the stranger released Shu Ran, who changed his mind about a no-escape battle, split up with the divine chicken, and began to run away from this place as quickly as possible. Ling Yang, who was angry at such a brazen trick, still managed to grab the agile little tiger cub and throw it on the floor, bleeding profusely, after which it disappeared. After this, he couldn't let Shu Ran escape. His staff once again began to change shape. This time it took on the shape of a circle, which instantly grew wings and soon combined with its master Ling Yang to form huge wings on his back. As he flew into the air, he could clearly see where his enemies were running to. He decided to deal with Shu Ran first. He immediately caught up with him, which Shu Ran felt when he asked him why he was following them. The divine chicken flying nearby once again called the guy an idiot, explaining that any negotiations were pointless right now. At this time, Ling Yang pointed his finger at Shu Ran, and a golden ray came out, piercing first Shu Ran's back and then his heart. He couldn't run anymore, which caused him to fall to the ground, flying an extra couple of meters away. Thinking that Shu Ran was dead, he left Yeonji, warning her that he would deal with her later, and now he had to finish his 10,000-year task and grab the divine chicken. The teacher immediately ran to her dying disciple, thinking that his days were numbered. However, he still had a trump card up his sleeve. After surreptitiously generating a first aid kit, he handed it over to Yoji to heal him. At this time, the divine chicken was fighting with Ling Yang. Fireballs and beams of light flew in all directions. The divine chicken deftly dodged Ling Yang's every attack. When he got close enough, he tried to ram him, but nothing good came of it. He received a savory blow to the skull with his staff, then fell straight towards Yoji with Chu Ran already fully healed and tore a huge hole in the ground. When I got out of it, I couldn't believe my eyes. Yoji, along with Chu Ran, didn't just survive Ling Yang's strike, but they weren't injured at all. This kind of reaction even made Chu Ran feel a little amused, but right now, they didn't feel like laughing at all. As it turned out, Chu Ran was able to beg Yoji for all the dragon gold she had. He asked the divine chicken to transform them into bullets, otherwise they would all be finished. He silently agreed. While the chicken creates bullets, Yoji and Chu Ran must distract Ling Yang. As they finished discussing their plan, they felt Ling Yang land behind them. He chuckled, admitting that they were pretty tough guys. Alert, Chu Ran gave Yoji special pills that temporarily increase her combat power. She swallowed several of them without further ado and immediately felt a surge of strength. As it turned out, the higher the cultivation level of someone who took these pills, the better the effect of them would be. Watching this, Ling Yang became interested in these pills. He considered these pills, generated by Chu Ran, to be special pills that raise the strength of the Yuanian stage to level 2 Yuanian strength, so he agreed to spare them if they told him their recipe. Naturally, they were not satisfied with this option, and Yoji and Chu Ran prepared for a heated battle. Yoji took to the air to attack, but Ling Yang stated that even if their cultivation level was above average, it didn't mean that they would be able to defeat him. He held out his staff, which instantly grew to the size of the same huge tree that they had encountered in the Dragon Blood Clan spiritual forest, covering Yoji and Chu Ran with it and intending to crush them. The huge staff fell to the ground, causing huge destruction and an earthquake. Its size is several dozen times that of ordinary trees, but Yoji and Chu Ran easily dodged it, thanks to Yoji's ability to fly on the lightning bolts she summoned. Chu Ran, watching this strike from the air, noted that it probably would have turned them into mincemeat if it wasn't for the abilities of his mentor Yoji. The divine chicken also flew after them, blaming mortals for ruining his entire life and holding a submachine gun magazine in his hand. Chu Ran demanded that he not put all the responsibility on them. After all, if it wasn't for this chicken, they would never have found out about the hidden treasure and ended up letting this dangerous person out. He also asked him if he had made bullets. He replied that due to his great hurry, he only managed to make 3 dragon gold bullets. He threw the magazine directly into Chu Ran's hands. He immediately inserted it into the machine gun, preparing for battle. He had all 3 bullets that would be able to injure Ling Yang, which meant that he didn't have the right to miss. Yoji suddenly stopped flying and froze in midair. The divine chicken, looking behind Chu Ran's back, was very scared. There was Ling Yang himself, who easily caught up to his enemies thanks to his newly created wings. Chu Ran didn't turn around, but he immediately understood what was going on. When the divine chicken saw Ling Yang, it immediately headed back down to protect itself, but it wasn't there. He was already waiting for a shot that glittered with a bright yellow light, hitting the noble cockerel clearly in the back. This strike was much stronger than the previous ones, causing the Zhu Kui red bird to fall to the ground unconscious. As it turned out, Ling Yang had reinforced his first shot with the staff. This meant that the Yang spiritual core was so strong that it could not only transform itself, but also strengthen the body of its host. This greatly complicated their situation, and the chances of winning became less and less. Ling Yang once again reminded them that they could survive if they told him the recipe for those pills. However, Yoji, much less Chu Ran, had no thoughts of giving up. The guide asked his mentor what their plan was, because it was far from a fact that they would be able to break through his defense, even using dragon gold bullets. In response, Yoji grabbed his arm and stood behind him, grabbing the submachine gun and charging it with her energy. They joined forces to strike with even greater force. Chu Ran aimed at Ling Yang and prepared to pull the trigger. Meanwhile, the gobbly chicken that had fallen to the ground and been burnt to a crisp had recovered. He was lucky that he managed to create a small shield made of dragon gold, which Ling Yang's blow landed on. His literally saved the rooster's life, absorbing most of the damage into the metal. However, although the shield protected him, it was covered with cracks and had a hole through the center, making it useless. As the chicken was catching its breath, it heard a strange noise behind it. Turning around, he couldn't believe his eyes. A huge beam of blue energy of incredible power struck straight at Ling Yang. The divine chicken immediately realized that this was a great chance to escape from the battlefield and get rid of the annoying mortal humans. He prayed to all the gods that Yoji and Chu Ran could distract him long enough for him to find shelter. When Chu Ran and Yoji stopped shooting, they hoped to see even the slightest bit of damage on Ling Yan, but he managed to completely absorb all the damage thanks to his heavenly weapons. Chu Ran couldn't believe that they couldn't defeat him even if they attacked with all their strength. Ling Yang himself was furious. He didn't expect them to be so strong and decided that they were going to die anyway. Yoji immediately reacted and flew away from Ling Yang, hoping to reach the territory where the spiritual pressure would increase again. Yoji, along with Chu Ran, finally made it out of the dome with normal spiritual pressure. Thanks to the bandages, they were able to use their true strength on their own, unlike Ling Yang, who was supposed to be able to leave a high spiritual pressure behind. However, there was another problem waiting for them outside. The Dragon Blood Clan's arrow flew at them as soon as they stepped out of the barrier. Yoja easily deflected it with her lightning bolts. However, when she looked into the distance, she noticed a huge army flying on griffins directly towards them. The Dragon Blood Queen had been waiting for them all this time. Yoji and Chu Ran angered their sacrificial spirits and invaded the Forbidden Lands, for which the soldiers were ordered to kill them without any hint of mercy. But our heroes didn't have time to fight them, so Yoji flew up to them and let out a lot of lightning bolts that attacked all the griffins of the Dragon Blood Clan at once. They were no longer a hindrance, but it was at this moment that Ling Yang himself jumped out of the barrier. Chu Ran noticed that the spiritual pressure did not prevent Ling Yang from flying straight towards them at full speed. Ling Yang, who was still flying towards them, used his staff, which instantly increased its length and was about to ram Yoji together with Chu Ran, but the guy at the last moment managed to activate the peak after peak technique and summon the almighty frying pan. But Yoji knew that this was not enough for them to protect themselves. She pushed her disciple away and tried to deflect the blow with her true strength. There was an explosion that threw our heroes several meters away, causing them to get lost in the woods. Ling Yang pulled his staff towards you and lowered himself to the ground. Just as he was about to head towards his enemies, he suddenly met an entire army of warriors on the way. The Dragon Blood Queen asked the stranger if he was the very essence of their sacrifices and thanked him for helping her defeat the outsiders. Ling Yang didn't understand what the woman was talking about at first, but after adjusting to the situation, he lied to them that he was indeed their sacrificial spirit and ordered them to capture the injured invaders. The Dragon Blood Queen agreed to his order without question. The griffins had already recovered from Yoji's blow and flew into the air with their riders. When all the warriors had left, Ling Yang ordered the Dragon Blood Queen to take him to their clan. The entire scene was watched by the Divine Chicken, which was actually the sacrificial spirit of the Dragon Blood Clan. He really didn't like Ling Yang impersonating him. If the Dragon Blood Clan really believed him, then Divine Chicken would have nowhere to go for food, which meant that he needed to help Yoji and Chu Ran defeat Ling Yang. He went into the woods, and when he found them, he was very disappointed. Yoji and Chu Ran were both unconscious and seemed to be one step away from death. However, the Dragon Blood Clan was already close. He could already see the griffins patrolling the forest above his head, so he changed into the form of a pumped-up rooster, grabbed them both, and carried them off in an unknown direction. Chu Ran woke up in a certain cauldron full of green liquid. Immediately swimming to the surface and taking a breath of the beautiful fresh air, the first thing he saw was a divine chicken that was gradually stirring the green liquid in the cauldron. Naturally, the first thing Chu Ran thought was that the divine chicken had decided to take revenge and make an excellent soup out of them, which he started to accuse him of, but the truth turned out to be more prosaic. In fact, the divine chicken saved Yoji and Churan and used its spiritual liquid to heal their wounds. If it wasn't for his help, they probably would have already died from blood loss or been caught by the Blood Dragon clans. After accepting this answer, Churan abruptly thought of Yoji and started looking everywhere for his mentor. She was also in the green liquid, but it looked much worse. Despite the chicken's spiritual liquid, there was still a huge hole in Yoji's chest. As it turned out, she was hit twice by the spirit rod, and its immortal energy seeped into her wound like poison, destroying her life force and preventing her from healing. The divine chicken gave Churan some terrible news. He believes that now her spirit will not be able to heal injuries and her body will soon collapse. Churan didn't have enough spiritual balance points to buy another first aid kit either. Unfortunately, he saw only one solution to this situation. He swam over to Divine Chicken under the pretense of having something to discuss with him, then pretended that Ling Yang had found them and was already behind him. When the poor naive bird was distracted, Churan hit it in the face with his indestructible frying pan to knock even a drop of blood out of it. His plan was successful. There were a few drops of blood left in the pan. After activating the system, he started scanning it, thereby increasing the completion rate of the main quest by 1% and received a reward for this. He was completely healed and also received 100 spirit points and one certain ant point. Churan guessed that it would allow him to fly just like a divine chicken. By the way, he was already flying towards Churan at full speed, activating the soul fire and intending to kill him for being so impudent and ungrateful. However, he stopped abruptly when Churan handed him the same pills that he had once given Yoji as an apology. The divine chicken accepted this generous gift and forgave its abuser. After a while, Churan bought a first aid kit and bound up all of Yoji's wounds, so his mentor came to her senses and tried to understand what was going on. Churan explained to her that she was on the verge of death, but now everything is fine. Suddenly, Yoji started to feel a terrible pain in her chest. It was an immortal power that leaked out after being struck by a heavenly weapon. Divine Chicken thought that this was the end for her, but Yoji herself didn't agree. She pushed the chicken away with a small bolt of lightning, much to Churan's surprise. He asked her what she was trying to do, after which she replied that she knew a way to neutralize the immortal force, but for this she needed his help. The latter of course agreed, after which Yoji immediately kissed and hugged him, sinking to the bottom of the cauldron. Yoji and Churan were still inside the cauldron full of green liquid, but for them it was as if everything was enveloped in a white bright light. Yoji was sitting naked on the lap of her equally naked disciple, asking for help to fight the immortal power by following the spiritual practice she had just taught him. Churan agreed, after which they kissed again. Immortal Chicken, however, didn't understand what was going on, so he thought that even at this time, they'd found time to flirt and demanded that they control their feelings and take on Ling Yang. Soon, Yoji felt more beautiful than ever. She was full of strength, unlike Churan, who had lost all of his strength. Apparently, Yoji had simply drained his strength to heal herself. However, the poor guy didn't receive even the slightest praise. Instead, he was kicked in the face for lying down for a second. Churan noted that he had given up all his strength and only received a kick. It was just a tool in someone else's hands, which made Yoji chuckle, but she didn't deny it. Suddenly, a plane appeared in the air directly above them. Churan immediately knew that this was the bounty airdrop, but only he himself had seen it. He could tell by the fact that Yoji was wondering where the noise was coming from. Dropping the box to the ground, the plane disappeared as suddenly as it appeared. Churan immediately walked towards him, which Yoji noticed and also followed him. As soon as the guy touched the box, it began to disappear, and in his hands there was an OPA. He wondered how powerful these weapons would be when combined with the golden dragon bullets. Yoji asked her newbie why he hadn't shown this magic weapon before, to which he made up an excuse in a hurry, saying that it was only recently developed. Their conversations were interrupted by the divine chicken, who once again hurried them on because they really didn't have much time. As it turned out later, they were too late. Ling Yang had slaughtered the entire Blood Dragon clan. The only survivors were the Dragon Blood Queen and her daughter, but they too would soon die if Churan and Yoji didn't intervene. The guy asked the chicken why Lin Yang kills everything he sees, to which the red bird replied that Lin Yang wants to force open a portal using immortal blood rituals. Chu Ran asked Yojie if they should step in and rescue the remaining surviving members of the Dragon Blood clan, since they were still their enemies. The mentor replied that they couldn't let Lin Yang damage the portal, otherwise they wouldn't be able to get out. Meanwhile, the Dragon Blood Queen attacked Lin Yang, ordering her daughter to escape from this place as quickly as possible. She had no choice but to obey. However, Lin Yang didn't plan on letting her go and immediately turned his staff into wings, flying after the princess. But Chu Ran could only benefit from this. He had an advantageous position and was already aiming at Lin Yang, after which he shot out a dragon gold bullet. Lin Yang blocked the Dragon Blood Princess path. She had nowhere to run. Lin Yang asked her what tribe she was from and how she was related to the Dragon Blood clan. However, the girl did not understand his question and did not understand what tribe he was talking about. All of a sudden, Lin Yang was pierced by Chu Ran's bullet, which pierced right through his body. Divine Chicken asked if Chu Ran had managed to inflict a fatal wound. However, the answer was no. This time, the power of his heavenly weapon didn't help him. However, the shot only landed on his shoulder. The wings that had previously protected their master, like some liquid, began to flow out of the floor, once again forming a staff and falling at the feet of the Dragon Blood Princess. Chu Ran informed his companions that he had injured Lin Yang. They didn't waste any time rushing over to finish him off before he regained consciousness. Lin Yang realized what was going on and didn't have time to do anything. He was engulfed by the heat of the soul flame on one side and a huge bolt of lightning on the other. After his staff fell, he couldn't defend against these attacks. Somehow withstanding the pressure, he released a force that knocked the attackers to the ground. The system notified Chu Jai that the spiritual pressure had returned to normal, causing the spiritual flow to stop. As it turned out, Lin Yang had used his own power to counterbalance the spiritual pressure so that he could forcibly start the blood sacrifice rite. A huge dome similar to the one that contained the sealing crystal spread out for several kilometers, and the souls of the slain Dragon Blood clan members came out of their bodies and entered Lin Yang's body. Chu Ran tried to shoot him, but the light that surrounded him was too bright, making it impossible to aim properly. Our heroes didn't know what to do, but they couldn't just let the ritual finish. After the rite, his strength will be equal to that of a true immortal, and everyone will be forced to bow down before him. Yoji went to Lin Yang's side to distract him while Chu Ran and Immortal Chicken came up with a plan. With her true power, she took control of all the swords in the area, raising them in the air and pointing them directly at Lin Yang. However, the latter, sensing the approaching danger, left all the swords. He expressed his regret to Yoji because she had almost reached the primordial level, but still could only use the Kungshuan sword formation, after which he caused a huge shockwave that destroyed everything in the area. After the shockwave that Lin Yang caused, everything was destroyed. Chu Ran was able to survive with the peak-by-peak technique, but the Divine Chicken wasn't so lucky. He had to take the blow with his body, which exhausted him quite a bit. Looking around, Chu Ran noticed his mentor in a terrible state. Yoji was sitting with her back against the destroyed giant sword of a once great warrior. Chu Ran quickly ran to his mentor's side, hoping to bind up her wounds, but she sharply warned of an attack from behind. When he turned around, he saw Lin Yang, who was already swinging a punch, which left Chu Ran with no chance to block it, and he didn't hesitate to kick the guy in the stomach, causing him to spit up blood and fly a few dozen meters away. The teacher was worried about her student, but there was nothing she could do. She could only watch as Chu Ran struggled to deal with everything on his own. Lin Yang also suggested that they stop fighting, because against his strength, they are all nothing but nobodies, unable to even scratch him. Chu Ran, on the other hand, noticed that his fall was softened by the Divine Chicken's fluffy body. He asked the man what he was doing here, and the man, in his usual way, said that if he hadn't used his body as a pillow, he would have been dead by now. He also gave Chu Ran a new weapon. It was a bullet made of dragon gold, but also enhanced with chicken soul fire. Lin Yang's blood depends on the strength of the soul. This means that if Chu Ran manages to hit him, the soul fire will burn up the remaining soul power in him, causing him to die. However, he couldn't figure out how he was supposed to hit such a small target, but alas, it wasn't the chicken's problem anymore. Completely exhausted, he reminded Churan that he only had a chance and everything depended on him. He was about to pass out when suddenly Churan injected him with a horse-sized dose of medicine with a malicious grin, causing the chicken to heal quickly. At this time, Lin Yang was using his power to repair the destroyed portal. When he was done, he asked Yoji that since she was able to use swords here, she should be able to open the portal as well. She naturally ignored him, but Lin Yang began to press down on the blade that was stuck in her stomach. This caused the girl great pain. Lin Yang once again asked her to open the portal because if she did, she would die a less painful death, but she wasn't going to accept his terms. Gathering her remaining strength in her palm, she tried to attack Lin Yang, shouting at him that he had no right to order him around since he was only a man. However, Lin Yang didn't even need to deflect the attack to avoid taking damage. He grabbed her underarm with his bare hand and received no injuries. He was interested in Yoji's phrase about men and felt that the world around him had become very interesting indeed in these 10,000 years. His thoughts were interrupted by Churan from Bua to preponderance. He was impressed that the doppelganger had such great power and asked if it was an artificial intelligence or if it was controlled remotely. Such questions made Lin Yang very angry, and he tried to summon his heavenly weapon, but with it, the Dragon Blood Princess was flying towards him and was about to strike. The blunt guy took hold of the weapon that the girl was clinging to and then pulled it around him. He yelled at her to let him go. Someone looked through binoculars, said that the girl was ruining everything. It looks like the plan will come into effect sooner than planned. He tried to attack both the guy and the girl. Everything turned purple, but the guy unexpectedly blocked the attack. He abruptly caught the girl and pulled her to him, holding her by the throat. Then he grabbed a guy who was standing nearby and was looking through binoculars, pulled him with a kind of staff. The blonde said that they were playing with fire, so he uses karmic fire to make them suffer even more. The trapped guy thought that being untangled by the energy of the spiritual core, the system wouldn't help him become invulnerable to the flames. He screamed and called the chicken for help. The blonde man was shot by someone, so the people he caught scattered in different directions. This was done by a chicken with a submachine gun, but he was upset because he fired too low. The guy who had been looking through binoculars managed to pick up a gun. He put it to the head of the long-haired man. Then suddenly he fired. The blonde man reacted quickly, hitting him in the stomach with a staff that went right through. The girl called out to Zhuran. The blonde asked if this was all they had. After all, they had been preparing for this attack for so long. He should have more experience to become a worthy cultivator if he wanted to make an attempt on his life. The guy asked who said he was the target. A charge of the spiritual pressure boosting system has been detected. Suddenly, the blonde man's stomach exploded. The chicken continued that he had determined that he couldn't balance the spiritual pressure of this world. Otherwise, when he used blood sacrifice, he wouldn't have deployed a barrier around himself. The magic treasure of the bronze mirror that he has on him cannot be hidden from the eyes of this great king. The guy said that their goal from the very beginning was his magic treasure. Without his magic treasure, he, a pitiful immortal doppelganger, would not be able to withstand the spiritual pressure. The blonde replied that his strength was less than 1,000th of his original body. After his death, he learns all that he has done. One day he will find it. The guy replied that let him come, he just doesn't have enough points. He fired. Kill the doppelganger and increase your main task completion by 2%. Special reward. Ability to make purchases in the store. A store? The guy was looking at the store. He thought about how there were so many categories in this store. These guns were just like everyday goods that could be easily purchased online. There you could buy weapons, medical equipment, protective gear, food, household goods, and electronics. He cursed when he realized he didn't have enough glasses and asked where else to get them. Can spiritual points be exchanged or redeemed? A faulty magic treasure can be exchanged for 20 spirit points. Yes/no. Great, he can finally stop worrying about spirit points. He told the others to wait a bit while he brought them medicine. Only he could see the system, so it looked very strange from the outside. Now you can choose medicinal food that brings back health, so today they can finally eat something serious. The chicken asked what he was doing, how often it happened, and the girl said that she didn't even know what was wrong. Maybe he was just degrading. Juran gave the girl a cake and told her mentor to try it. It can restore health. Even if not, it can heal all wounds. They looked at him in disbelief. The mentor began to eat, and her health only increased. How can this thing be so delicious? The chicken asked her how she felt and asked her to give it to him so that he could try it too. The guy grabbed him and shouted that it was only for the mentor, asked why he was pulling his paws towards him. The chicken screamed that the king risked his life to help them kill the scoundrel, and they didn't even give him healing medicine. What black hearts they had. Suddenly, something that looked like lightning struck the ground from the sky. The guy asked what it was. The chicken replied that it was a message transmitted by the body of the doppelganger after death. This is the power of a true immortal. Even the energy of the entire world can't block it. Juran replied that this meant that choosing this location wasn't bragging. His essence really knew that he would kill him. The chicken continued that everything was clear. The exiled immortal that he summoned has the power of the realm of silence. If he comes for it, then he can just wait for his death. The guy asked if he thought he could run away because they had just killed him together. The chicken replied that as long as the king could recover his strength, he was afraid even if this immortal came. He should be more concerned about himself as a youngster. A woman with a girl in her arms asked to save her daughter. Her mentor told her that her soul had been burning in the karmic fire for so long that it was already very close to destruction. No one can save her. The woman said that if they couldn't save her here, then they should take her to the outside world. She knows that there are many more skilled people in the outside world than here. There must be someone who can save her. The boy whispered to his mentor that this place was rich in resources. If they could win over the Dragonblood tribe, it would be of great benefit to them. She replied that she had no reason to save her. They killed a lot of people and never showed any acts of mercy. You don't have to be so pliable to avoid getting yourself into trouble in the future. The woman said that if they were willing to save her daughter, she would take an oath to serve them for generations to come. She would never betray them. The woman got to her knees. The mentor said that saving her or not was up to him. This child seemed to like him. If he saved her, he could make the mother and daughter do whatever they wanted. The guy thought about what kind of concretization is this, mother and daughter. He replied that he wasn't given any vows, just that if they came to them, then they would have to take them at the proper level. Juran said that the karmic fire was extinguished, but her soul was badly damaged by this rod. They would have to take her outside to come up with a solution. Suddenly, eagles flew in and strange warriors appeared. They put various jewels and treasures on the floor. The woman said that these offerings were not worthy of them, but she was her only child who would inherit the clan in the future, so they could take everything. There were so many notifications that it was an original gold ore that could be exchanged for 5 spirit points. The guy thought that it could be exchanged for spiritual points. It's a fortune. The mentor said that she would take them for herself. It's been a long time, so they should hurry back to the mountain gate. Juran looked very upset. The teacher asked what had happened. How could he take so many things with him? The guy looked up and saw the chicken trying to raise its weapon. He asked him what he was doing and took the other end of the rod. The chicken replied that the king had defeated this fiend and the yang rod would be the best reward for him. The guy said that it was very ugly of him. Even at the beginning of the battle, he said that this rod of yang is only his. The chicken asked if he wanted him to hand over the Yang family relic with his own hands over his dead body. Otherwise, it will get nothing. Juran replied that he had been here for 10,000 years. The outside world has become too harsh. He won't be able to survive in it. It won't be good if he suddenly goes outside and lets someone see him. Why doesn't he stay here and open the mines or something? He would visit him often so that he could earn some money. The chicken said that he was just awful. If he still leaves, then he should leave him the rod. The mentor said that she was already tired of their arguments. The demons should have already started attacking the mountain gate. Looks like it's going to be a tough fight. They should go with her and help her deal with the demons. Rushan Gate Square. They all exited the portal. Is everyone in Yoshaman such a stupid coward? Why are they afraid to go to war? The masters were greeted. The mentor asked what the current situation was. She was told that the elders had sent their men to battle many times without her, but they had always returned defeated. The demons continue to strenuously attack the mountain defense formation, and it is almost impossible to hold on to this point. Juran said that Menta can leave this matter to the two of them. Red and blue rays appeared in the sky. The teacher told them to all look there. It's the fire chief and the girls. The girls said that the fire elder came out to them, so the mountain clan is saved. Red elder, fire elder. Juran said that sooner or later, but they came back here to fight. Isn't it because of the fear of being deprived of power? The preceptor said that she would manage the mountain defense formation, and they should deal with the demons that had already infiltrated here. The girls took to the sky. The mentor asked the dragon-like demon how dare he stir up trouble in the mountain clan, and then she added that he was going to die today. Another asked him how dare he hang around the Yoshin gate, said she would kill him. The demon attacked them. The mentor said that this demon destroyed her fire phoenix without taking any damage to itself. Another girl asked her how to deal with it, and the master replied that they should take care of the other demons, and she would deal with it herself. The battle began, and all around was lit up with light. The fire elder shouted that he must die, attacked him, but the master flew down somewhere. She called her mentor. The unknown girl was speculating about what a great place the Yoshin clan was 1,000 years ago. Now, after so many years of fighting, they can barely force out a few demonic creatures. It seems that there is no need for the Yoshin clan to exist. The crowd shouted that the eye of the gate had also cracked. Someone said that the mountain defense formation was destroyed. The demons are about to attack. What should they do? The demon ordered her servants to attack the mountain gate and kill them all. Suddenly, one of her dragons was burned. Is it the soul's incinerating karma? The girl saw a huge flying chicken and a guy on it. She asked who it was. Juran greeted her, called her sister, and then added that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. He apologized, saying that he didn't know that her demon beast was so weak that it was burned to ashes by one of his attacks. The girl asked if the Yeo Mountain clan didn't have any more women who could fight, since they let the man go out to fight. It seems like he purposely wears so few clothes. Is he going to seduce her with his beauty? The guy said he wasn't sure, but they could do something more exciting. He told Brother Chicken to attack. They attacked the girl and her demons with ultrasound. Even buildings began to collapse. Hearth hole. There were bodies lying at the gate of the hall. One guy told his brother to take a look. After all, this is the personal guard of the demon emperor. It was Fu Lane. Fu Fan replied that he should shut up. The girl said it was a very powerful attack and asked who it was. Another said that she had just seen the fire elder. Maybe it was her divine beast. Bai Lu thought that it was already dawn. She was looking at the battle in the sky. Juran fired his weapon, but when the fog cleared and there was no one left, he thought that the girl had escaped. Suddenly, something exploded above them. The girl asked if he thought that an ordinary low-ranked vermilion bird would be able to stop her. Juran replied that no, it was just that the chicken said that its powerful attacks were especially effective against demons. But it seems that they don't work. The chicken replied that he was a stupid man. If he slandered the king again, he would throw him down. The girl told him to get out of here. He must not think that his appearance would save him. If he got in her way, she would kill him, even though he was a man. The guy replied that she was deeply mistaken about men. He thought that he needed to teach her a lesson. The girl screamed that she would kill him. It rose high into the sky. Juran took out the Yang wand. He parried her attack with one end of the weapon. The girl wondered what it was. The crowd said that this was such a powerful blow. The demon leader was defeated. It doesn't look like Fire Elder with Strike, but who else would be so strong? What is this awesome golden weapon? Juran said that their boss was already covered in blood. What good were they? Weak mobs. He asked his sister if she wanted to continue their fight. The girl said that she had underestimated him. She would never have thought that a third-rate clan like the Yeo Mountain clan that was living out its life would still be able to give birth to a weirdo like him. Juran replied that with him, the Yeo Mountain clan would immediately become a first-class clan. The girl told him not to be conceited. The Yeo clan only had pathetic semblances of disciples, but there was never a real male disciple. She really wants to see how he can revive this fading 1,000-year-old clan with the body of an ordinary teenager. Then she noticed that they had already reorganized the mountain guards, so their chances were against them. The girl said goodbye to the guy, said that she was waiting for the next meeting. Juran replied that the next time they saw each other, he would definitely be involved in their madness clan. She better not come here again. The teacher shouted at them not to let go of the demons, they must kill them all. They began to fly back. Juran noticed that it was a glacier to chase the demons after they all escaped. Chicken noticed that the people in this clan didn't seem to treat him very well. The guy said that one day, sooner or later, he would make them all happy. The girl went into the hall and told the head that the main forces of the demons had retreated. The fire elder leads the hall's disciples in pursuit. The remnants of the demon army in the mountain gate were wiped out by the hall's disciples. They are still on patrol. The preceptor replied that she should pass on an order to prevent any subsequent pursuers from venturing into demon territory and beware of ambushes. Suddenly, other elders came into the hall and asked to wait. The girl asked the fire elder if she hadn't gone to pursue the demon race. She replied that the demon tribe had some disciples to deal with. She had one question, so she came to ask the leader for advice. The chapter had already discovered the beginnings of a demon invasion along with the disciples patrolling the mountain a few days ago, but why were they delayed in returning in the past few days? Now that their clan has suffered and many disciples have been killed and injured, can the head give them an explanation? The girl replied to the fire elder that, contrary to the rules and regulations, the fire hall had gone to the demon territory several times to loot, which was what led to the response from the demons. Maybe they should also give them an explanation about this. The girl replied that humans and demons were always enemies, and it was their duty to fight the demons in the north. What about their leader, who disappeared for a few days with the gate? At this time, she has to take the gate with her. She's still too young. King Xuan shouldn't have chosen her as his successor. If this goes on, they are afraid that the elders will have to announce the election of a new head. The mentor replied that it was true that she had been away for a few days, but that she had left to do something important for their clan. The girl said that now that she had hidden everything, she could say anything. The guy asked if anyone here had mentioned him. He introduced himself, said that he was Juran, a disciple of the Yao Mountain clan, and then added that he was happy to meet the elders and clan members. The girl started asking who he was, why he was so beautiful, was all this talk about him. He's so beautiful, no wonder the head can't resist standing in front of him. The girl told the elder that he was the one who killed Luer, to which she replied that this clan was getting better and better. Since when can an ordinary person be called a disciple? Juran replied that there was a first time for everything. Isn't he the first male disciple in the clan? The teacher had told the fire elder that Juran had indeed been accepted as their disciple. The elder asked what this nonsense was. According to the rules of the clan, an ordinary person can't be a member of it. She is deceiving people and defaming the name of her ancestors. Juran asked if it wasn't that something was wrong. After all, Izumi had agreed to their joining the clan. Who was she to object? The crowd was cursing about him being a scoundrel, a lowly man. How dare he be rude to an elder? According to the rules of the gate, he should be immediately sentenced to death. A few days ago, he killed a disciple of their clan. He's a criminal. A chapter can't cover it. Juran wondered if these elders were so aggressive, if they wanted a coup. The fire elder told them that she didn't like the current situation and couldn't help but mention her warnings. She believes that the chapter only brings them disappointment. She is not only detrimental to her duties, but also does not strive for anything, suddenly disappears at a critical moment for the clan. How is it going to lead the masses by such actions? The teacher said that they should stop. Juran is not an ordinary student at all. She left the clan for a few days, so that he could temper his body with the sword family constellation. After only a few days of cultivating, he had reached the second level of key power. Do they have a second candidate with such qualifications? The crowd asked if it was true that he had reached level 2 key power in a few days. It's impossible. The elder said that only she, the master, knew about it. How would they know that it wasn't her who helped him reach the second level of key power? The guide laughed and said they were so funny. They may say that he is not worthy to enter the monastery. They may doubt his real strength. But they forgot that they were only standing here because he had destroyed those vermin. And when the evil spirits attacked, who cowardly hid for 3 whole days, and he was locked up, not daring to come out, and who wanted to take all the achievements for themselves, but was shamefully beaten. Surely they, the shameless ones, can still stand here. Even though they are not as good as a man, they still have the audacity to say that he is not worthy to enter the gates of the monastery. In their place, he would have already slammed himself against the wall to avoid embarrassing himself here. The fire elder replied that he was shameless, he was lucky enough to win through magic means, and he still dares to insult their clan. She won't kill him today, but it's hard to deal with her hatred. The head shouted that it's already been too long after the death of the master. The clan is getting weaker day by day. They all do not strive for anything, but only think about internal struggle. How can the Yao clan still have hope in such conditions? The elder replied that they were not responsible for weakening the clan. The head of the clan replied that she, of course, did not need to take the blame. She was to blame herself. Then she took out the treasures she had brought with her. This are these precious crystals from Tai and fossils of invincible troops. And then there's the heavenly black stone, so much. This is equal to all the clan's cultivation resources in a year. If the clan had had so many resources before, it wouldn't have weakened so much. The clan head said that this time, when Zhu Ren entered the sword family, he didn't know that not only would he conquer the dragon blood race, but he would also discover a few precious mineral veins. All these treasures of heaven and earth are his merit. Zhu Ren's body has already been tempered by constellation. He has achieved great achievements, and she, breaking the established order, accepted him as a disciple. Does anyone dare to object? They wondered if it was awe. He thought about how he was sure that money was the way to go, as long as it didn't lead to death, which could easily drive him crazy. The girl asked the master if she would really let this scoundrel go so easily. The elder asked what she would do with it. What's so special about this insignificant man? The ores are really important. They should definitely be in the hands. Otherwise, he would be firmly planted next to the head, and there would never be a day when they could breathe freely again. He has a low cultivation level, so he relies entirely on magical methods, so we need to think of a way to capture him, interrogate him in detail about the ores. There are still ruins. We need to send students to search as soon as possible. The girl replied that yes, she would arrange everything. Zhu Ren thought that they would have had this plan in mind from the very beginning. I think we need to find a way to teach them a lesson, and he'll learn some points along the way. He asked his celestial sister what she was thinking. The mentor replied that she was thinking about their future path. Today he managed to break the elder, but her answer will not be long in coming. Although his combat record is very outstanding, his cultivation is too low. It depends on the items. If they find out about this, the situation will become even more dangerous. The guy replied that she needed to calm down. If they pushed them to the limit, he would just kill them, and that was it. Just clearing the way at the gate. The mentor replied that now is not the time for conflicts. She has more important things to do. The shrimp fishing competition that takes place every 3 years is about to start, and she's going to send him to represent their clan. The guy asked what kind of shrimp fishing it was. The girl continued that the so-called shrimp fishing is a tradition that originated during the development of the northern borders. At that time, there was a special kind of shrimp called crazy Chanluo shrimp in the dark forest. These shrimp are simply gigantic in size, and their speed is incredibly fast. Only a select few warriors are capable of handling it. Therefore, people who are able to hunt crazy Chanluo shrimp are respectfully called shrimp catchers. Although currently the crazy Chanluo shrimp is not an important resource that determines the existence of people, the sects still have a tradition of hunting shrimp. Once every 3 years, the Tianluo mad shrimp spawning grounds are opened, and 10 disciples from each sect are sent to participate in a competition, the winner of which will receive the title of shrimp catcher. Zhu Ren thought that shrimp catcher was so simple. The teacher continued that this year's competition will be attended by Yoshaming students, and they are all subordinates of Elder Huo from the Hall of Fire. She had heard rumors that traces of an ancient relic had been discovered in the vicinity of the place where the competition was being held. This is the reason why Elder Huo is so interested in this competition. This time, it doesn't matter if they can win the competition or not. No matter what happens, keep an eye on Hu Tandi's students. Xuran told Shen Xian's little sister not to worry. He was a seasoned sparrow, so he would definitely be able to get the title of shrimp catcher. And if there really is a trace of the relic, their beloved elder Huo definitely won't be able to get it. The girl told him not to call her sister mentor in the future. It sounds like a mockery. From now on, when no one is around, he can just call her sister. Did he understand? The guy replied that he understood and then called her little sister. Kinching. Xuran thought that these few days he had been spending all his time with his little sister. Even going out alone was somewhat unusual. Before leaving, his little sister gave him a spatial storage ring and many different treasures. Later, you will need to log in and check how many spiritual points you can exchange them for. Suddenly, he noticed a chicken. Xuran asked Brother Jai if he had come because he missed him. He replied that he was dreaming, but that the king had just made a deal with him. And now the king is forced to take care of him, to make sure that no one accidentally kills him. Although the king doesn't like it, it's too stuffy and charming, so he decided to go out and relax at the same time. The guy replied to Brother G that it looked really cute when he thought one thing and said another. The chicken screamed at the ugly boy to get his hands off him. They reached their destination. Xuran asked the mentor sister if it wasn't true that they had reached the right place so quickly. The girl replied that this was the edge of the dark forest. The head said that they should drop them off here. The boy replied that this was it, and then asked Brother Jai if he would like to fly to the right place and get a lift on his back at the same time. The chicken replied that it wouldn't work that way. He had to overcome this path by himself. It was part of the sex training. The guy was walking through the woods. Xuran asked what kind of cursed place this was, because the atmosphere here was so frightening. The chicken asked him why a person who aspired to become a celestial was so cowardly. The energy of death is felt here. It is possible that many years ago necromancers lived in these lands. The guy replied that since all the energy of death still hasn't dissipated, it means that you can come across undead or cursed objects, and he thought about what kind of undead it is, because he hasn't seen anything like it before. Maybe if he scans it, he can calculate how many points you can get. With only 1% points in 7 days, it's really a busy time right now. Suddenly, something passed in front of them. What was that? They saw many huge boars. The guy asked me what it was and said it looked really nasty. The chicken replied that they were ninju, low-level creatures of necromancy. They seemed to be hunting someone. Suddenly, someone shouted. The guy said that it was not far from here. The chicken suggested that he go and take a look. The girl attacked the monsters while protecting her mentor sister. Xuran said it was clothes. It seems like she's a disciple of some sect. The chicken replied that there were so many ninjas, it wouldn't be easy to deal with them. Are you sure he wants to save them? The girl was thinking that she had come here to show the teacher how brave she was. However, she is unable to deal with even low-level undead. Even if she dies, there is no way she will bring the honor of the divine teaching masters to shame. She tried to attack the undead, but was knocked back. Suddenly, the monsters were shot through by something, and they all fell down. The girl didn't understand what had happened. Xuran asked her if she was okay. The girl asked who he was because it was too dangerous here. It wasn't the best place for a man. He needs to get out of here as fast as possible. Xuran asked his little sister if she was sure she wasn't confused, and the chicken thought that she was a little silly. She replied that there was no time to explain. The place was full of dark creatures. He had to head south immediately, and she thought that in half a day he would be able to get out of the dark one. The guy shot in front of her, killing another boar. She thought about how it had happened, what a powerful weapon it was. Xuran said that girls were always in trouble. They could only talk, and even had to spend the golden dragon bullet on nonsense. The chicken asked if he had seen his smile, but what girl would take him for a good person? The guy asked me where he got that smile. He's the friendliest person in the world, isn't he? The girl thought that she had completely forgotten about her sister. Xuran thought, okay, it doesn't matter. He should see how many points he gets first. Killed so many hefty monsters, yet only gained 0.1%. His main task is to get at least 1% every 7 days, so how many monsters do you need to kill to meet the norm? Alert. Kill third-order undead and collect information about the soul of the deceased. Quest completion rate 0.1%. Reward, 50 spirit points. They'd kill him if he didn't meet the norm, and how was he supposed to get home? Chicken thought it looked like the little man was relapsing again. The guy kept thinking that okay, as they say, a mosquito is also meat, we'll have to stock up on more bullets. The mentor told Chichi that she wasn't an opponent of this undead, she should return to the sect with her. The girl replied that she didn't need to worry, she could take care of herself. She will definitely find out the whole truth about this undead creature. The girl bowed to the guy and said that Chichi thanks the follower of the divine teaching for saving him. Juran asked what kind of divine teaching it was and if she was one of the disciples of the Chita sect. He is a disciple of the Yoshin sect, so it can be said that they are one family. The girl was very surprised and asked, because the Chicha sect does not accept men. Especially the Yoshin sect, there have been no exceptions to the rule for several hundred years. Juran replied that he was the only man who was personally accepted by the sect head's order. They might not have heard of it yet. She said she understood, and he was probably the rumored pretty boy. The guy asked what kind of cute hunk he was. She replied that just before she came down from the mountain, the teacher had told her that all the men who live outside the mountain are relatively weak and can't cultivate, but there is one incredibly beautiful man who is proficient in the art of seduction, thanks to which he can make anyone do whatever he wants. This man is a good-looking hunk, and she should never give in to his charm. His appearance is so outstanding that the chapter broke the rule and took him in as a disciple, and he has such a powerful weapon. It must have been a gift to make him stand out as a pet. The chicken laughed, said he was a cute hunk, so that's what their relationship really is. The guy shouted at him to shut up, if it was his fault that he was born beautiful. More than anything else, he hates being called a cute hunk. The girl pointed her sword at the chicken, asked why the bird was talking, if it was a demon. So if he's not a cute hunk, he's actually a spy for the demon clan. The chicken screamed that the king was actually Zhuge's sacred bird, not some demon. And if the little girl keeps calling him that, she'll be his snack. She replied that it was so small, so how could it possibly be a legendary sacred bird that could devour the earth and heavens? The chicken shouted that she was a naughty girl. Who is this little one here? What, she doesn't believe the king can just swallow her? The girl replied that she is actually 16 years old, she is already an adult and not a little girl. And he's just a little chicken. Suddenly, an unknown girl appeared next to the guy. He was very scared, asked where she came from. The girl said he was special, asked if he could lend her his body because she wanted to explore it. Juran shouted that there was no need to jump out of nowhere and scare people like that. Her makeup was so creepy that he almost died of fright. The girl replied that since he didn't want to, how about this Juke? She hadn't seen a living creature in so many years. Could she study it? The guy shouted that he didn't, and then he thought that today was such a day. He met two girls, and both of them were not right in their heads. The girl only repeated that it was a follower of darkness. Another said that her name was Mo Wang, and that she was indeed a follower of the dark doctrine. But she shouldn't worry, because she's not interested in studying little girls who haven't even developed yet. The girl said it meant that she had created all the walking dead that had harmed her mentor sister. She would take revenge for her. Suddenly, a mummy-like monster grabbed her. Juran shouted for her to let go. The girl glared at them. The guy asked what was wrong with Brother G because he was hiding behind his shoulder. The chicken replied that she was a dark master of at least the 5th level of Yuanying, since she was able to create such a shadow puppet. It seems that she is much stronger than him. The girl replied that the followers of darkness are also divided into sects, and she is not interested in such vile things as ninju. Moreover, these stupid monsters weren't created by a follower of darkness. Another one shouted at her that the Dark Masters were cold-blooded villains. She didn't believe that she was a good girl. She asked her if it mattered whether she believed her or not. She walked over to the bar. The guy asked his little sister why she came to the dark forest. She replied that their sect had received news that an undead had appeared in a nearby village. They caused a huge amount of damage to the locals, so he and his mentor sister went down the mountain to destroy the evil spirits. But these monsters were much stronger than they thought, so the chicken said that although the death energy could spawn undead, it wasn't able to create a ninju out of nothing with such a large difference in levels. There's clearly something wrong here. Juran thought that this necromancer didn't look like a person who created undead. Is it possible that these undead are related to the ancient relic that Elder Huo is looking for? The girl asked if they were still discussing. The guy asked if it could still stop appearing out of nowhere because he almost had enough Gundaddy. She replied that she wanted to let them know that she had found the source of the undead spawn. The two of them are pro-evil extirpators. Would they like to go along with her and take a look? The girl said that she was coming, whatever it was, she just had to find the source of the undead's appearance. Juran replied that he still had a lot of things to do, so I guess without him. But if anything, morally he is always with her. He thought that only the demon would go along with the unknown Dark Master, wait a bit and send Omio after them, let him investigate the situation first, and then he would act on the circumstances. The girl said that she thought he was a special man, but his specialness was useless. Another said that he was also a cute beauty, so he didn't look like the ambitious followers of their sect at all. There was no need to demand too much from him. The guy asked again who the cute handsome guy was, why he wasn't ambitious. The girl said that there was no need to go anywhere, the undead found them themselves. A monster appeared in front of them. Juran thought that this guy was somewhat similar to the arachnids from the games. It's so big, how many points will you get for it? He told Brother G that they also had karma bullets left, so he would finish this freak off with one shot. Chicken asked, there were only 3 karma bullets, didn't he use up all of them? The guy asked again what he had used up, can't he make a few more? The chicken asked if he was joking, if you use the karma fire outside of the secret world, you can cause a heavenly calamity. So he would only be able to do more when they returned to the secret world. The guy asked what he hadn't said before. Suddenly the demon roared. Everyone was scared. Black plumes of smoke began to rise. Juran asked what that thing was. This is a trap, he definitely wants to trap them. The girl replied that he had secretly used the ninja corpses to create a magic circle. Pretty clever. Suddenly, it began to break up into some butterflies and disappear. Juran asked if she had decided to abandon them in this situation. Chicken replied that of course, this is all followers of the dark arts, they have no loyalty. He thought that it was lucky that the system wasn't susceptible to such techniques, otherwise they would already be dead. The demon spat out some kind of spider web at them. She covered the kids. Juran thought that they were not immune to this spider web. The monster took it in his hand and began to examine it. The shadow-like girl said that they were a couple of vile divine teaching masters. They had been tracking her for so long, they didn't even think that they would fall right into her hands. The girl screamed that she is an evil spirit, so she will be punished for her evil deeds. She only regrets that her cultivation is not finished yet, otherwise she would already be dead. He wondered if he was a master of divine teaching. She shouted that she should keep quiet because she was not worthy to speak to her. The girl was gagged with cobwebs. Another said that the divine has actually sunk to the lowest level, and even men can become disciples. But this is even in her favor. With him, her plan is definitely doomed to success. Although his cultivation is negligible, however, his body is perfect for grabbing. The guy asked what the capture was, then went on to say that in this world, women are usually much stronger, aren't they? Then why capture his body? The girl replied that what she was going to do was not very convenient when you were in a woman's body, and such a gentle man would be just right. He didn't need to worry. She would only take over his body temporarily, and when she was done, she would make a beautiful puppet out of his corpse. It would be a sin not to take advantage of a pretty boy like him. Juran apologized, saying that he wasn't interested in having his body seized. And more than anything else, he hates people who call him a cute hunk. The guy caught fire, everything around him was on fire. He called out to Lianyang. The demon fell to the ground, then was crushed by a huge staff. The girl asked how such a strong monster, no, it's at least a demon, was suddenly crushed. Chicken replied that no matter what a pathetic demon did, they even killed the Celestials. The girl was shocked, asked if he was serious, to which he replied that yes. Juran said that, for the future, you shouldn't call people cute and handsome so rashly, otherwise you might get caught. The girl screamed that she needed to be careful, because the soul of that demon, it flew straight at the guy. Juran lit up again. He attacked the shadow with his wand. The girl asked if he had one. The guy said that even though it looked like he was done with it, he needed to check if the fish had escaped from their net. The girl thought that this cute, handsome man was so cool, besides, he saved her life twice. Could she duck him? Juran was looking at his glasses. The chicken asked why it was acting weird every time it killed someone. Juran replied that it was a trade secret, so no comment. The chicken said if he doesn't want to talk, then don't, who needs to? The guy thought, what is this? Even the killed ninja can be counted, then why is there no reaction to such a big monster? Really, the shadow grew several times and rose. He still hadn't killed her. Suddenly, butterflies began to fly in front of him. It's finally here. The girl covered him with herself, stood in front of him. Her mummy was hit by a shadow. The girl screamed that she should get it. The shadow flew away and howled. She said that she was too careless this time, but they would meet again. Juran was very angry, and he told his sister that running away when they were facing danger was no big deal, but why did she suddenly come back and take away his victory? Does she have any idea how important it was for him to kill her? His glasses. The girl replied that she wanted to study it. Killing her now might interfere with her research. Besides, he's too weak. Even with a strong weapon, he couldn't hold her back if she tried to escape. The chicken replied that she was right. That thing was far from an ordinary undead. This demonic entity must belong to the Jindan realm. Thus, the Jindan that are rampaging throughout the country. It is unlikely that she would be able to defeat him, but she would definitely be able to escape. He said it was impossible, that she was the one who scared that demon so much that you decided to run away, and he, by the way, had a plan in store to defeat this thing. The girl intimidated the guy when she replied that the maximum she could give it to him after studying it. If he did not agree, then she could kill him first so that she would not have to postpone her research. Juran asked how she was going to catch it then. The girl replied that he needed to think things through. While she was invisible, she said that she needed to capture the body of a Shenabing sect disciple. In addition, it needs a male body, which means that, most likely, its goal is to take advantage of the position of men to do their own business, without attracting the attention of other participants. There aren't many places within a few hundred miles where you can meet Shenbing disciples, but there is such a place nearby, and that is Question City. The guy thought, what is this Question? Isn't this the place where the crayfish catching competition is held? The girl said that it seems that the major sects are planning to hold another boring competition there in the near future. However, the real target is the birth of a true celestial relic. That demon most likely also came here for that purpose. Juran asked if that relic wasn't hidden in the ruins. How did she know all this? She replied that when the major sects descended to the point of accepting men, it was no longer a secret, so the demon simply couldn't help but take advantage of this opportunity. The guy said that even though they knew for sure that this creature was going to go to Cushion, but what would happen if she managed to capture the body in these few days? How would they recognize her? The girl said that she managed to capture a piece of her soul, which is enough to determine her location. However, she is a follower of the dark sect and can't hide either her dark art or her identity, so she simply won't be able to enter Question. The guy said that he knew a way to hide her dark cultivation, but with a personality, such a trick wouldn't work. Another girl said that she could help her go to Question. Her mother is Tang Yingxi, the head of Question City, so it's not a problem for her to bring a couple of people into the city. However, first she must find out why it was so important for them to capture this demon. Juran said that he was a disciple of the Yoshin sect, so it was his duty to protect the world from demons. He couldn't possibly tell her that he was only doing this for the glasses, he thought. The girl said that her cultivation has reached a dead end, so she wants to study this demon properly. The other agreed, saying that then she would take them to the city so that they could catch this demon. The guy asked if his little sister felt that she trusted people too easily, if she was afraid that someone might have deceived her. The girl replied that even if they deceived her, she was the only one who would suffer from this. However, that demon created ninju and crippled many civilians from the surrounding villages. There is also the possibility that he might cause irreparable harm to Cushion. In such a situation, he simply can't sit idly by. If it really helps her get rid of this pest, she is ready to take any risks. 3 days later, the northern border of Changshuan is Cushion City. They entered the city through the gate. There were people everywhere on the streets. Juran said that he thought Question was a small border fortress. He didn't think it would be so lively. Chicken said it was a strange city, all women around. Where were the men? The guy answered him, is Brother G really so stupid? After all these days, he still doesn't understand. The chicken replied that he was the one who was stupid, that they had women running everything in Yoshaman who knew that it was the same outside. The guy asked if he wanted to say that before he entered the dungeon, women weren't the stronger sex in this world. The chicken replied that, of course, at that time, yin and yang were in balance. There was no inflection in someone's direction. But now, the power of the earth and sky was much weaker than before. He needs to check the mountains and rivers, as well as the laws of the earth and sky. He must take care of himself. The chicken abruptly flew away. The guy thought that he just left. This is a complete lack of discipline. The girl asked if the cockerel had left without them. Juran replied that he was hungry, flew out to look for food, and didn't need to worry about him. Kushin's Supreme Military Council. They approached the military council. The guy thought that there was some kind of wrong atmosphere here. The woman at the gate told her sister that she was finally back. The girl asked Sister Fu what had happened, why everyone was so tense. She asked if she also knew that the general was attacked yesterday. She was seriously injured. A curfew was declared throughout the country. No entry and exit is allowed. The girl asked if her mother was hurt. The guy told her to take him to her mother faster. He can heal her if it's not too late. The girl asked where her mother was now and asked me to take her to her place. Another said there was a ghost trail here. Juran replied that they had only missed the ghost in the forest when Kiki's mother was attacked. The girl said that they shouldn't let the ghost escape next time. Backyard. Deputy Mayor Tang Yinmei asked Kiki why she had returned. Kiki asked second aunt where her mother was. She should see her. They told her that she was supposed to study in the mountains and that the affairs of the military council were not her business. She can't just come here with strangers, especially with a man. How is that possible? Kiki replied that they were her mentors, not strangers. She should get out of the way. She should see her mother. The deputy head of the city asked what kind of mentors they were, this wild man and an incomprehensible cultivator. As for her, they were not her mentors, but spies. She then ordered Liu Yu to capture them and interrogate them under torture. The girl replied that she obeyed, added that she had not seen such a juicy, handsome man for a long time. Her sister would hurt him a little. Kiki said that they should not go overboard or they will regret it. Liu Yu asked why it was their wish. She wasn't ordered to go to Shenbingmen for cultivation. She must have just learned the basics. Her strength has already reached level 3. She is the first master of the Tang family. The Tang family no longer obeys her. Juran replied that the third level was true power. No wonder she wasn't afraid of offending a child. The girl said that he was cheeky. Let's see how he will be when she undresses him and starts training him. She lunged at him. The guy used a layered peek. The girl fell. Juran asked if she wanted to train him. It wasn't even his strongest punch. The deputy mayor said that he would pay with his life for injuring her daughter. After some time, the woman was completely broken. Kiki called second aunt over. The girl asked if they were coming or not. What if the ghost managed to escape? Kiki asked her mother how she was feeling. The woman told her not to cry because she was fine. She asked who the two men were. Kiki replied that they weren't new friends. If it wasn't for them, she would have died. Juran asked what it was. The girl replied that the ghost's trail here was very faint. It must have been long gone. She would check outside. She was gone. The woman asked what kind of shadow technique it was, if it was witchcraft cultivation. Kiki told her mother that they were very strong. She should trust her and let him examine her wounds. He could treat her. The woman asked Kiki to go to the doctor and see if her medicine was ready. The girl asked Juran to look after her mother. She ran away. The woman asked who they were and why they were bothering Kiki. The guy replied that he was a student of Yoshaman, came to Klishan for a competition and accidentally met Kiki. She asked again what Yoshaman was. It was considered one of the orthodox schools. Since when did they deal with witchcraft cultivators? He replied that it was a bit difficult to explain, but they didn't have evil intentions, at least not against this question. The woman said that Kiki believed them, so as a mother, she couldn't help but trust her daughter. Kiki said that he can heal, can or examine her wounds. She took off her clothes and said that he couldn't even dare to think about something shameless. Even though she was injured, she could still kill him. The guy thought that she undressed so quickly. I wonder if all women in this world are so big. Then he saw the wound. This wound is a bit similar to the one that sister received from the immortal. He said that whoever tried to kill her used a weapon with the residual power of an immortal. The cut isn't deep, but the immortal's residual power is enough to reduce the chances of healing and stop the wound from healing. She tries to resist, but the power of an immortal in the end. The woman said that this is indeed the case. It's getting harder for her to resist. Does he know how to remove the power of an immortal? The guy thought that he couldn't use the same method as the last time with his sister. However, he used his own power to remove the immortal's power, so he doesn't know if it will help. The guy said he wasn't sure, but he had to try. He put his hands to it. What is this method? Such a feeling. This time, the power of an immortal is much more powerful. Notice, using your own method, you receive the maximum amount of life energy. The main task was completed by another 0.5%. A new skill is available, spiritual improvement. A useful support skill that increases the ability to dispel negative effects on targets. Is this an additional healing skill? It's kind of weak. Only 0.5% of the main task, but less each time. Juran said that he didn't have much power. If he couldn't remove the remaining power the first time, then he should try again a couple of times. The woman said that it was good. Even the Empress doesn't have an absolute cure for the power of an immortal. Being able to get rid of it is already good luck. She is grateful, so he can ask for whatever he wants. Juran said that apart from the competition, he had come to hunt down the ghost, so he hoped that the city head would help them. The woman said that, naturally, she would do everything for their convenience. Right now, Question is restless. The streams of power are concentrated here. And if he trusts her, they can team up. The guy asked again. She continued that it was true that they would conduct a secret investigation, wait for those who harbored ill intentions to reveal themselves. The time has come, the ghosts, the murderers, they'll catch us all at once. Kiki asked if her mother was cured. She replied that she was much better. Her friend helped her a lot. Kiki hugged the guy and thanked him for helping her mother because she was very worried. She then apologized, saying that she was too happy. Juran replied that it was fine, they were friends. Kiki told him to calm down. She knows that men and women are not allowed to touch each other. She takes responsibility for that hug and won't consider him a lecherous man. The guy thought, what is this? A ban on touching? Such expressions are more suitable for her mother. The woman told Kiti to help her friend settle down because he agreed to stay here for a couple of days. Juran rested in the bathroom, thinking that it was nice here. After a few days in the forest, it was finally possible to take a good bath. Little life energy, exchange for 1,000 points. He thought that this system is just like an exploiter. Why is it so expensive? Don't buy it. Wait until Brother G comes back. Let him take a look. Now, the most important thing is to increase the progress of the main task. It's already been 5 days out of 7. And he got only 0.6%. At this rate, he can die. Okay, why bother? First, you can buy yourself a soda and relax. He was drinking soda and relaxing. Suddenly, a girl appeared and asked what he was doing. He spat it all out in fright. The girl asked what kind of sticky potion it was. Juran said that she should stop appearing so suddenly. She scared him. Suddenly, the girl jumped into the bathroom. She began to move closer to him. The guy asked her what she was doing. She said that the smell of his body is so unusual, not at all like when they were in the forest. She asked if she could examine his body. Juran replied that of course not, and then asked her to come out. They certainly know each other well, but not that well. The girl said it was just research, asked why he was shy. Suddenly, Kiki brought him some washed clothes. She saw that it was just the two of them. The guy said it wasn't what she thought it was. Kiki shouted that she knew he was a liar. How could she possibly take responsibility for him? The girl asked what he had done to make her take responsibility for him. The guy said he didn't do anything, it's not fair. Suddenly a chicken arrived. He said that he was popular with women, in the bathroom with 2 sisters at once. Juran asked Brother Jay if he had found something. The chicken replied that he didn't know what it was like in other places, but in the vicinity of Qishan, the energy of the mountains, and it was perverted, evil spirits were prowling everywhere. He thinks something terrible is going to happen here in a couple of days. Juran asked Brother G why he was speaking as if it was a prediction. What else was terrible? The chicken replied that he could believe it or not, who cares? The girl said that she had just searched the residence, and she also felt a strange ghostly energy as if it was coming from the ground. But Russell is a lot of places she can't enter and explore in more detail. Kiki said that she had heard from her mother that this palace was built hundreds of years ago. There used to be a magic tower here. But then the foundation collapsed and the tower disappeared. Later the building was restored and the Supreme Military Council was located here. But that was so long ago. How could it be related? There can't be so many coincidences and signs at the same time. Someone is definitely behind it. Juran told Kiki that someone wanted to get her mom out of the way, who has such a motive. Suddenly, he remembered how the deputy head of the city had told Kiki that she was supposed to study in the mountains. The affairs of the military council were none of her business. Suddenly, there was a kitten that was flying and mewing. Kiki noticed that it was a very cute kitten, and it also had wings. The girl asked if it was Tiger Tunshan. The guy told Omiao to hide and follow the other two. The kitten became invisible. Juran asked Kiti if anyone knew that her mother was getting better. She replied that her mother had told her to keep quiet. No one else knew. The guy asked little sister Mauve to help protect the city head today because he suspects that someone else might try to harm her these days. The girl agreed, but said that after all this, he would let her study Tiger Tunshan. The guy agreed and thought that the tiger is immortal, so the research should not harm him. He gave them the device to transmit sound, said that if something goes wrong, they can just call him. Within a radius of 10 li, he can easily hear them. 10 li, 5 kilometers. Tiger watched the deputy mayor and her daughter. Juran said that they were strange to the chicken in the first place. When the head of the city suffered, all power passed into their hands. They are under great suspicion. Besides, there's a protective dome over this courtyard, so it looks like something is being hidden there. Coming here so late, it's definitely not a normal walk, is it? The tiger cub tried to follow them, but got burned. The guy told Brother G that Ao Miao couldn't pass. They should go by themselves. The system is immune to this level of protection. They came in. Is this the stench of the afterlife? Juran asked what the stench of the afterlife was. The chicken replied that there was an afterlife under the world of people. The living and the dead were separated. The two sides had never crossed before. But the stench of the afterlife is felt here, so the entrance to the afterlife is open here, or someone has overcome the barrier between the worlds. No matter what, the city is in danger anyway. The guy said that then for the sake of the people of this city, they should find out what was going on, and he thought that the system likes this. Chicken asked if he was joking. It was dangerous to provoke the inhabitants of the afterlife. Any of them could cause a disaster. The guy said he didn't see any obstacles, so what's there to be afraid of? He thought it was a little scary, but he had to keep his temper under control. The chicken screamed at him to let him go. If he wanted to die, he shouldn't drag him along. He hadn't lived long enough yet. Juran told Brother G that if he yelled like that, they would be noticed. Wealth and honor are obtained at risk. If there are any values here, won't he share it with him? They saw the crowd of people and fell silent. They said that the dark afterlife was the promised land. The guy asked Brother G what else it was. The chicken replied that it was a blood rite for summoning. Suddenly, they shouted that the time had come and cut off people's heads. Juran said it was murder. The deputy mayor said that the ceremony is completed, the hostess can be revived. Suddenly, someone huge stepped out. Juran asked Brother G what it was. He replied that, judging by the energy, it was one of the inhabitants of the afterlife. It was a huge bull. The women said they were congratulating their host on his arrival on Earth. The bull said that he was the main demon in Master's service. They had not shed enough blood for Master to pass the boundary of the worlds. The Master had sent him to shed more blood and open the way for him. Where is the evil spirit of mountains, waters, trees, and the mad skeleton? Why didn't they come to meet the Master? The woman replied that to meet him, the lady spirit of mountains, waters, and trees killed the head of the city. Now they cannot contact her. And where the mad skeleton is they don't know for a long time. The bull said they were too scum, a waste of the master's efforts. After he kills all the living things in this city and meets the master, these two traitors will be destroyed. Suddenly, a shadow appeared, telling Master Demon Bull that she hadn't forgotten Master's orders. It was the spirit of mountains, lakes, and trees. She continued that these two mice were being watched here. She was afraid that they would interfere with Master's arrival, so she secretly guarded them. Juran and the chicken looked at each other. The deputy mayor said that they are assistants who were invited by the mayor. Juran said that she didn't invite him, he was just passing by. Bull asked where the mad skeleton was. Ghost said that skeleton was looking for victims for the lord outside the city. All the victims whose blood was spilled just now were brought by her. He didn't think that these two scum could find so many victims on their own, did he? He wondered what that meant, if Zday was looking for victims, if the spider they'd met in the woods was the crazy skeleton. Who, after all, are they? The bull said that the victims' souls were damaged, and only she knew what the mad skeleton was doing. The spirit continued. As for the origin of this sword of his, the master sees everything and follows everything. The bull said that he needed to prepare a sacrifice for his master right now. There was no time to chat with her. If she's smart enough, she can sort it out on her own and save the owner the trouble. Suddenly the bull stood up. Juran thought that it was impossible for him to go out to Kushan, or the city would suffer. He told Brother G that they can't let him come out, we have to stop him. The spirit said they were just two little mice, it was time to die. The deputy mayor's daughter said that he was a student of the Immortal Cultivator School, so she should kill him. Spirit said that the fewer people who knew about today, the better, so it was time for the two puppets to die as well. She took the girls by the heads. Juran told her to stop killing people, shot her, and thought that these two knew the details. You can't let them get killed. She threw off the bandaged men and said that since he liked saving people so much, he could keep more. Zombies began to emerge from the bandages. The bull took off. Everything was lit up with red light. Kiki asked what it was. The girl said that this is the seal of the afterlife. It isolates it, but it can also release the afterlife mustiness. The afterlife mustiness was caused by some power. It can turn wandering souls into warriors of the realm of darkness. Zombies began to fall from the sky to the ground. Warriors of darkness hate all the living. They crave murder. Question is going to be a disaster tonight. They continue to fall from the sky and attack people. The head of the city said that this is an order. The soldiers need to hold the formation. It is necessary to hold off the attack of the dark warriors and save people. They must obey orders, and she would meet these intruders. Kiki asked her mother to send her away because her wound hadn't fully healed yet. The woman replied that she would return quickly. She should not worry and wait for her. And then she left. The girl said that she would help her mother, and she should find a safe place and hide. Kiki shouted into the walkie-talkie and asked her brother where he was. The guy at this time shot back from the zombie. He was helped by a chicken. He said that these corpses are able to absorb the afterlife mustiness and resurrect. It's just pointless to fight. Spirit told them to keep fighting. She wants to see how many more weapons he has. Then he heard Kiki asking her brother to come back quickly. He thought that something had happened to Kiki. He couldn't delay any longer. A fiery manifestation. His wand lit up. He told the spirit that she had to get out of the way if she wanted to live any longer. Spirit said it was a top-level sword. She didn't expect such surprises today. Unexpectedly, he's not the only one with top-level magic. The guy flew down from her, said that there was some immortal power left on her sword, so she was the one who tried to kill Kiki's mother. The spirit said that today she would show him how to use a top-level sword. He realized it too late. Field of magic destruction. The boy didn't understand what had happened to his sword. Chicken thought that her sword was really top-level since it was a field. She said that within her field, the value or power of anything is not important. They all lose their properties, and only she can do whatever she wants. Juran said that Sister Spirit couldn't beat him and decided to cheat, so it wasn't fair. But he can do it too. He started shooting at her. Spirit asked how many other trump cards he had. The guy replied that he had a lot of trump cards. I thought she was hiding something. Chicken said that he needed to be more careful because her field was still active. He wouldn't be able to use his powers to help him. Juren replied that he didn't need any help. He would get her to open up soon. He was looking at the screen when the girl appeared behind him. Juran abruptly used a layered peek. And again, it flew away. Ghost asked what kind of weapon it was. Juran replied that it was a divine light weapon that dealt additional damage to the undead. How's she doing? Wants to try it again? The ghost grinned. She tried to use the grave nether dead torment. She was covered in something red and grew several times. Juran said it was just a fight. Why be so vile? This is too much. She threw a lump at them. The spirit said that he could not escape from her field. He would become her slave, called him baby. The guy jumped away from her. Juran thought that this meant that he couldn't injure her with the fire manifestation, and so she decided to attack head-on. Clever. Suddenly, Kiki called out to him. He thought that he couldn't stay any longer. He had to leave. After selling the power of an immortal, he was just able to earn 5,000 spirit points. Exchange some life energy for 1,000 spirit points. The spirit tried to attack him. Juran said that he had completely forgotten to tell her that his boyfriend was very big. She would have to be patient for a bit. He pulled out his gun and shot her. The body shattered into pieces. Juran apologized, saying that he was never afraid of those who cheat. Suddenly, a spider web appeared. Juran asked where she came from. It's that spider from the forest. The spider-like girl told her to leave it. The entrance was already open. There was no time to waste. Ghost said he was a shameless thief, and later she would find him and get even. The spirit and spider were gone. Could it be that she ran away? Juran said that he spent almost all of his spirit points and achieved nothing. His money. The head of the city thought that he was very strong. Even the head of the Imperial Legion wouldn't be able to match his strength. Such a powerful monster came from the underworld. Would Kushan really be destroyed? The bull told her not to try to fight in vain. This city was destined to become a sacrifice for its master. He pointed his weapon at her. Suddenly a girl appeared. The bull asked if this was the Chaos Bowl. She was a magic cultivator from Wuliangshan. The woman thought it was the same Wuliangshan. The girl asked him if his master was a demon from the underworld or the master of the dark abyss. It couldn't possibly be someone of a low level. He should continue to prepare, not pay attention to it. She will wait for the appearance of its owner. So much do you want to study it? The bull said that even if she was from Wuliangshan, he couldn't forgive her for despising her master. The girl repeated that she didn't want to fight him, but would wait for his master to appear. Kiki was standing on the roof, trying to hide from the warriors, calling for her mother's help because they were already approaching. Suddenly, a chicken closed it, took it with him, and moved it to another roof. There was Juran with her mom. She asked if she was okay. Chicken said there were too many dark warriors. They needed to come up with something soon. He thought about how only she could command the city guards, but he had just spent all of his spirit points and wouldn't be able to buy her medicine. That's right, that new support skill. Why are there so many healing areas? No matter, there's no time to waste. He placed the spheres in it, and the woman rose into the air. Kiki asked what he had done, and Chicken asked how this woman could have made a breakthrough and reached the perfection of body and soul. A breakthrough? Using magic can increase the target's strength, but it's against the rules. How can you jump 4 levels at a time? The guy asked Brother G what was going on. The chicken replied that what else could have been a breakthrough? It was a thunderclap. Lightning struck from the sky. The bull said that he still hasn't escaped. Isn't he afraid to die together from this magic? This time, they would definitely die because of him. The woman continued to climb up. Kiki called her mother. The chicken said that it should wait. This is her creation. If she can withstand the thunderclap now, then in the future, even if Rup can no longer enter the state of soul and body perfection, it will be an invaluable contribution to her cultivator level. Thunder struck, and they fell from the roof. Juran said that this thunder was so powerful that it made his heart sink. Kiki landed on top of the guy. He asked her to move because she was pinning him down. The warriors began to leave. Juran asked Brother G, what's going on? Is it a thunderclap that caused the soldiers of darkness to scatter? Chicken replied that the soldiers of darkness are made of yin and evil energy. It attracts thunder. If not for this, they would have already been finished off. He thought about how they were originally more violent. The woman thought about what had happened, whether it was the thunder of perfection, why the breakthrough had happened so suddenly. Was it because of this Yoshin disciple of hers? She asked if the guards were here and was told that they were. They came to the defense. Suddenly, the head of the city was attacked by a bull. He jumped on top of her and she fell. The bull said that the pitiful insects, which are only suitable for sacrifice, almost interfered with his master's plan. Juran thought that even in the state of perfection, she couldn't defeat it. This demonic bull is too strong. Kiki shouted that he should let Mom go. The bull said that they, the bold worms, were like moths flying to the fire. He hit the guards. The guy managed to grab Kiki. She asked him to save her mother. The bull said that they should kill all living things because they will be a sacrifice for the master. Chicken said that he was stupid because there are too many dark warriors and they are not able to defeat the demonic bull. We need to retreat. The guy said that he promised Piki to save the city and he would keep his word. Then he asked Brother G to save Kiki and her mother, take them to a safe place. The chicken asked what about him. The guy told him not to worry because he had a way. Bring them back to the afterlife. He began to shoot at the warriors and they all scattered and the bull parried the blows. The chicken flew away and asked him to be careful. The guy thought that he should finish off this bull today anyway. But the barrel has overheated, so you can't continue using it yet.